Hey guys, you are listening to the Unruly Doctor podcast, a podcast about life, metaphysics, current events, politics, and anything I find interesting. Please subscribe to our channel and like this episode so that we can grow and reach a bigger audience. Enjoy the episode. Hey guys, Dr. Bain here for another episode of the Unruly Doctor podcast. I've got Dr. Erica Middlemiss here. Now, am I saying Middlemiss correctly?
You are. Good job.
Awesome. So I want everybody, because I think your story is really intriguing. I think people who listen to this and in the future, as this gets millions of views,
of course,
because I put that out every day. I'm like, I spend like an hour a day manifesting. So tell everybody a little bit about your story, because I read your website. It's really interesting how you started as a naturopath and then worked your way out of that. Mm-hmm. So kind of give everybody a little brief explanation of your history and how did you end up going into QHHT?
Yeah. So I became a naturopathic physician in 2003. Mm-hmm. And I started practicing. I've been in practice for about 10 years.
Sure.
Seeing clients and patients. Now I call them clients. So
yeah. No, it's a shift, right? I catch myself sometimes.
Yeah. So I would see patients and there was always something that I was missing, or I knew that there was something deeper that I just couldn't get to within the mind. That was always the biggest thing.
Right.
It's in the mind. I don't know how to help them get there.
Or did you ever struggle with that in your own health and that was part of your motivation?
Absolutely. I think we all struggle with the things that we are going to help people with.
Sure.
That's like part of the process, right?
Sure.
So after about 10 years, I got to this place where I just felt like I was putting people on a hamster wheel constantly.
Yes.
Right. And I didn't know how to help them mentally. I would prescribe meditation.
Right.
No help.
Religiously.
No help, because
right.
I'm not giving them any tools or techniques to do that.
Sure.
And it's frustrating for most people when they just can't sit down and meditate.
Absolutely.
Right?
There's a lot of those out there.
So then I had been into metaphysics and spirituality for many, many years. I started reading Taoism when I was 19 years old.
Yeah.
You know, I found Dolores canon.
Right.
Just so happened to find her looking at some of the apocalyptic stories that were coming out in the whole 2012 thing.
You're right.
And I found her talking about the new earth.
Correct.
And the minute I heard this woman speak, I said, oh my God, that's
There's a connection.
She figured it out.
Right.
She found the thing that I've been looking for and created a technique to get people to that place. And from that point on, I was done. Yeah.
Now you're as high level as they go? There's like level 3 levels? Okay. Mm-hmm. Now for those the people out there, right? So I'm sure some QHHT fan people are going to somehow find this because they're probably scouring YouTube for every QHHT video, sound clip, whatever, right? But for those people who don't know what QHHT is, could you give a brief explanation?
Yeah, absolutely. Well, the acronym stands for Quantum Healing Hypnosis Technique. Mm-hmm. It was created by Dolores Cannon, who started doing hypnosis with her husband, who was a hypnotist.
Sure.
And they came upon past lives kind of haphazardly.
Yeah.
And then she went to study it more and figure out how to actually do it on purpose.
Sure.
And then doing that, the higher self in clients would come in. And she figured out how to do that on purpose.
Right.
And when you can take people through another life experience, because it's not always a past life, it can be any other experience, because everything is happening now, all these other lives.
Sure.
Maybe talk about that.
Well, we'll talk
later.
about that. I think I've already mentioned it to my patients before about how there's like fractals basically of the same person, but like
like an onion.
Right. Like,
that's an easy way to see
and that's of course like now you're getting trippy, right?
Which we could, definitely get back into.
No, we're going to probably dig into it. Like keep going.
So we take people to another life experience, whatever experience that is, to help them understand what's going on in their current life.
Right.
And as you are in a deep state of relaxation, it is natural to be able to have a clearer access to your higher self.
Right.
We're all in this state naturally twice a day, right?
Yes. Right.
And so she figured out a way to there's a certain way that we can just ask for this higher self to come in and speak through the client.
Activate it.
Yeah. And through that, the higher self will give understanding to the client about what is going on in their life.
Right.
Through that understanding, we heal, because the body is just a messenger.
Sure.
The only reason why we ever have illness or a symptom of any kind is because the body is trying to give us a message.
Agreed.
When we get the message, it is no longer needed.
Sure.
So when we understand it, the body then heals itself, because it is a miraculous machine, to quote Dolores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's an intriguing thing, because you and I were having a little discussion before we started this, right, where I was talking about different root causes to things, and you were telling me once you understand this stuff, it kind of eliminated a lot of these things.
Right.
So it's an interesting thing to dig into because obviously as being maybe a different type of doctor, but it doesn't really matter. I mean, once you get into the health space, you realize the doctorate doesn't mean much at all because
at all
90% of what I do now has nothing to do at all with my doctorate, and I could care less. You know what I mean?
I call it papers.
Right. Very expensive papers.
Very expensive papers.
By the way, government papers I'll be doing the minimum payments on probably till the end of time. But
right. Until they're forgiven.
Until it's basically you guys cause so much hyperinflation, it's worth nothing anyway. So, you know.
Yeah, absolutely. It's just initials before your name, which I don't even use.
Right.
I don't use anymore. Yes, I have a medical license.
Right.
Yes, I use it so you understand that I have an education. Other than that, my name is Erica. Please call me that.
Yeah.
I
don't blame you. I'll probably eventually drop the Dr. Bain, but it sounds so good. It's just like they're balanced. Dr. Bain. I don't know.
I get it.
Patrick Bain doesn't sound as interesting.
It's whatever works.
Yeah.
Like I use Dr. Erica. Again, it's important for people to understand, yes, there's an education behind what I'm saying.
Yeah.
But one-on-one, please don't call me that.
No. Well, that's the funny part too. It's like, you know what I mean? It's people focus so heavily on that. It's like, I'm editing a video today and some guy's like, quack. And I'm like, okay, whatever.
It's going to happen.
I don't care.
It's going to happen all day.
In terms of QHHT, right? So you said you're seeing how long are these sessions? So I assume that you said like 4 to 6 hours. I remember.
Typically, I typically 4.5, 5 hours is normal.
Right.
The 6 hours is if it's a little more extensive. Yeah.
Now, I mean, I'm sure a question you get a lot of times, and I've questioned myself this because I've really thought about doing it myself, right? But as someone who's so logical, I'm so good at like deep states of meditation by myself in a closed environment with no one, with no pressures of time constraints or other people in the room. Mm-hmm. So I've reached really high levels on that, but then I feel like if I put someone in front of me, am I going to be, now this is the word I use, is hypnotizable, quote unquote, which is it really hypnosis? You know what I mean? That's like, what is really hypnosis, right? Because a lot of people are thinking, you hypnotize me, and they go on the internet and they see the chicken person running around,
Mm-hmm.
So would you mind kind of easing people's thoughts on that?
And thank you for asking this question. Mm-hmm. This is such an important question.
I'm sure you get it almost every week.
I actually don't.
Really? That people aren't worried that they're not hypnotizable?
Oh, I get that question.
Oh, okay.
But not to
But what is it?
To actually explain what this is.
Correct. Okay.
Because people stop at the their idea of what they think it is, the chicken on the stage.
The chicken on the stage.
Correct.
Yeah.
Not at all what happens.
I would not imagine
not
that's
in the
what
least bit. Not in the least bit. What it is more like is what you experience in meditation, that deep state of relaxation.
Right.
The difference is you don't have someone talking to you and asking you questions.
Right.
Right.
Exactly.
So imagine how deep you can get if you don't have to keep conscious to ask yourself those questions. If you can just allow yourself to kind of go out into that never land.
Right.
That's what happens.
Zone out a little bit.
Yes. It's the in-between.
Gotcha.
We're not talking like Stranger Things stuff, right? This is a natural state that you are in every single day, right before you wake up in the morning and right before you fall asleep at night.
Right.
At night, when you're just falling asleep, all the sounds start to go away.
Sure.
Maybe the pictures come.
Right.
That's the state.
I gotcha.
In the morning, when you wake up and the dream is very clear,
right,
and you're saying to yourself, I got it. I'm going to remember this. I don't need to write this down.
Right.
I'm going to remember this dream. It's so clear. And then you open your eyes and you get up and it's gone.
I've had so many ones where it's like, oh, damn it, recently, because I have that journal, and then like it just sits there because I get up, I go pee. I'm a peer. I can't help it.
That's what we all do when we wake up. We're supposed
teeny
to.
bladder. I gotta pee. Okay.
We all do. It's
pee
human.
Too much. Maybe you can put me under at some point and tell me why I pee so much, because I pee like 3 times a night. It's a problem.
Oh.
So maybe it's attached to something.
There's a reason for that. Are you drinking too much tea before you go to bed?
Oh, well, probably.
Well, stop that.
Yeah.
See what happens.
Right. See the magic, right? It's becoming an issue, right?
Sometimes it's really simple.
No, yeah. Sometimes it is a simple thing. But, it's this whole thing. I mean, I'm sure you can agree, right? When you start getting into Dolores's work and the QHHT and all this, and I assume as a practitioner, it's even more so. It is a vast swath of, it's almost an own universe of it's like a whole thing. You could have a university of like just the information, trying to memorize this insane timeline that's been discovered.
Sure.
And I say discovered because it was obviously already happening, but the conscious mind isn't really aware of a lot of these things.
Right.
So, it's interesting. Do you have in particular, because you and I were talking about this, in a lot of the regressions you've had in the last, I don't know, couple of years, what would you say the most significant theme of these regressions or sessions would be? Like, what would you say is the most prominent thing that most people should be aware of or, learning from? Is there anything that comes to mind?
A lot of things come to mind. That's why I'm trying to process which, well, one of the main messages the higher self is always giving to people is that you are so loved.
Right.
You are so worthy.
Sure.
There is no one better than you. There's no one less than you.
Right.
You're a part of this oneness, this unity.
Sure.
And there is no better or less than in that. Right. And you're never alone. Never, ever alone. So many of us feel alone, especially along this journey.
Well, and recently, right?
We have no one to talk to. It's like, I feel like a
yes,
crazy person and I'm all alone in this. Never alone. Never, ever. You have a team. This entire spiritual team who never leaves your side.
Right.
And they show people that all the time because people do suffer from this feeling of being so alone and not having anyone to like be a comrade, to just talk to bounce ideas off of. And so never alone, and you are so very loved. And everything is going to be okay. Yeah. That's a really big one. Everything is always going to be okay. You're always okay.
Right.
We're so afraid of the unknown, and it keeps us from moving forward in life. And that is one of the things that they really have to not scold people, but it's kind of just like smack them around, like, look, stop it. This fear is for no reason. What's actually on the other side is something better, and it's nothing to be afraid of. We've got you, like we said, always here, guiding you, protecting you. There's nothing to be afraid of.
It's a trippy thing, though, I mean, we got the team right, but the team has to admit that the dream is so real that you can't help but feel a lot of these things. I think in part too because of the free will aspect, I think that we still maintain on some level, right? Where some people just do bad things, either maybe because they plan to be the villain in this play this time around, or maybe because they have free will and they're still holding on to some other thing. And so they're still doing quote unquote bad things, right? I mean, I don't want to go outside right now and I'm like, oh my God, I'm like getting stabbed or something. Like, that doesn't sound enjoyable to me.
Not at all.
Maybe there'd be a lesson in it and I'd die and then I'd wake up and they'd be like, hey, there was a lesson to being stabbed. And I'm like, oh shit, I remember. There was a lesson to being stabbed. I'm like, I pre-planned that. I told, me and the stabby guy, we talked, millennia ago, and he said, okay, and I'll make sure it's here. And I'm like, okay, but that's really digging deep.
It is. Yeah.
But, I think there is some interest into that whole debate topic, whatever, because I think it is a little bit natural to have some of the fear of like bad situations and things.
Well, we don't like to be hurt.
Right.
We've been there. We've done that. We don't like it. We don't want to do it again.
Right.
So we try to avoid it.
It's a tough situation though, too, right? Because you keep coming back. Until you've learned enough, and then you don't have to really come back here, at least unless you want to, right?
Right.
That's the hard thing, right? Because it's in your experience with would you call it interviewing? Because you're almost kind of like interviewing these people.
In the session,
right?
I do for the first couple hours. And it's not really an interview, but it's more of a listening.
Right? But like when you're talking to the higher versions of this stuff, right? You're asking them questions, and then they're kind of saying, well, here's what here's why Janice does that thing, or here's why she has this left cramp on her left leg or something, right? You see what I'm saying? So it's like an interview, but obviously I'm on the outside looking in. But, when you ask these questions, what would you say the ultimate goal is for somebody who's a prospective client, patient, whatever you want to say, so client of this? Like, what is the ultimate goal for this patient, do you think?
Healing, 100% healing. Healing happens on so many different levels too. So it's not always physical healing.
Sure.
Mental healing, emotional healing, spiritual healing.
Sure.
All on all these different levels. There's so many of us. I don't think I've ever met a single person that doesn't have something to work on.
Oh, I'm sure there's plenty.
We all, we're energy beings.
Yeah, right.
And none of us are completely balanced.
Right.
There's something going on that's blocking our entire system from being as balanced as it could be.
Right.
So when we have a session like this, the higher self can give us those ideas and those understandings to balance ourselves energetically, so that these things that happen that are uncomfortable don't need to happen because the lesson has already been attained. Right?
Sure.
So really, healing happens on so many different levels.
Yeah.
And a lot of times when you can understand like why you've been through the trauma you've been through in your life.
Yes.
Why your body is doing what it's doing and where it came from emotionally.
Sure.
It's life-changing.
So obviously that's the biggest thing because, right, a lot of people are, when they question these things, which I think is smart, you should always question things, right? So you don't I tell patients, you should never just buy something off of face value, especially in the health space, right?
Please
because there's a lot of stuff in the health space, and unfortunately, somebody says this and it ain't that, right? And that's just been my experience with. I'm always want to investigate, always be open, but always investigate.
Absolutely.
Either, so I tell patients, I won't tell you to do something unless at some point I'm trying it or really trying to investigate it. So, obviously, one of the controversial things, right, would be, in your opinion, this is the origin to every issue in a body. Was that accurate?
Oh yeah. And
so,
I'll tell you
dig
why.
more into
I'll
it.
Tell you
so
why.
Tell me more, because obviously, as somebody who does a lot of things in a lot of categories, I've seen some things. I feel like I've verified certain things.
Sure.
But you're saying this is even deeper than that. So give me more on that.
It is, yeah. Because the body is meant to be healthy, 100%, being this miraculous machine.
Sure.
It knows exactly what to do to keep itself healthy and well.
Sure.
So the only reason why it gets out of balance is because our mind and our emotions have become out of balance.
Okay.
The lesson always comes to the mind and the emotions first.
Okay, sure.
So if you think back in your life, you will see that.
Of course.
If you can, if you're aware.
Sure.
So from the mind to the emotions, if it's not taken care of, a lot of times what we do is we shove it down, we ignore it, we don't want to deal with it at all.
Sure.
Well, it's a lesson that needs to happen.
Right.
You need to get that lesson. So then it comes to the body, very simply. That's it. It's really that's the mechanism. You have the opportunity first in the mind and the emotions.
Right.
And then it comes to the body if you don't want to deal with it.
Sure.
And then you have to deal with it because when you're in pain, it makes you pay attention.
Right.
You can't ignore it then.
Oh, I mean, totally agree. I mean, when I do some of the testing I do, and if it ends up coming with some of the testing I do as a totally emotional thing, they do it and it resolves completely. Like a month ago, kidney lady, she super crazy kidney pain for a long time, decade, did my testing. It said it had nothing to do with her spine, nothing to do with chemical, totally emotional. I figured out what it was, told her to do this, gone, right? So so it's interesting
Light
though.
bulb moment.
But you're even saying though, are you saying even structural stuff, even chemical imbalance stuff is also all 100% generated by the mind? Or
I won't say 100% because if it is pre-incarnative, if you were born this way, if you chose this before you came into this life.
The disease or the suffering.
Yes. You were born this way. If it is something that you have developed in this life, then it is 100% mind and emotion. And you want to know why I know that is because when I have clients lying here on my table, the answer is always mental and emotional. Even if they come in very physically minded, like I've had many a doctor or chiropractor and people who are very physical. Or they see those people for treatment.
Right,
and they think that the reason is because it's structural or chemical or something like that.
Sure.
And the more I prod their higher self, even though they consciously believe one thing, the more I prod, I get down to it's because of this and this is why. And typically what happens, if I have someone that has a list of health concerns, it's for one reason.
Interesting. So so like what if someone's like a chain smoker though? Like, can they... As long as if the higher self is in perfect alignment with the conscious self, could I chain smoke and not get an issue?
Yes.
That's a very interesting. That's a big claim. I mean,
it is.
I'm not trying to push back. I'm just saying,
I know, and I'll tell you
even
why.
for someone like me who's like a super open guy, that's a big claim.
It's huge.
Because
it's
in my
huge.
health
And sounds
experience,
ridiculous, right?
Like I have found there's multiple typically reasons why this or this. But I am discovering that obviously there's a reason I wanted to come interview you and I wanted to talk about it more because I do feel this is huge.
Absolutely. There are physical reasons for things.
Sure.
Absolutely. We've seen that.
Right.
We're not going to ignore that smoking cigarettes can cause lung cancer.
Sure. Of course.
We're not arguing that point.
Correct. Yes. Sure.
What I'm saying is that there are many person who have smoked up until living to be 104 years old.
Who've had no problems.
Zero.
Totally.
And the reason why that person, if you ask that person, they would say, because I'm happy. Because I live a joyful life. Because I live in gratitude.
Sure.
Right? That is what you call energetic balance.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So you can kind of do whatever you want.
It's interesting.
Now, if you're out of balance energetically and you're doing these things to your physical body, it's going to react.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Got it.
But you can keep yourself completely 100% healthy energetically because all you are is energy.
Sure.
So those opportunities that come to you are just that.
Interesting.
It's just an opportunity for your learning experience.
Well, of course. Yeah. And sometimes like like I was telling you earlier with my trailer thing, I'm like, I'm learning a lot right now, and I'm trying to figure out what the hell it is, because I'm like, you know what I mean? I'm trying to have a lot of conversations with my team, and I'm like, all right, so I know I'm probably self-generating this, but I need like, consciously, I'm done with this situation. I'm ready. I don't know why I'm relearning, because I feel like the lessons I'm learning right now are the lessons I've already learned, but maybe I needed one more.
Yeah, that's a good one. That happens.
Yeah, it's like maybe I just needed another version of the same one already, because I feel like I already learned that lesson. But
it's the onion again.
Yeah, right.
So there's layers to these lessons.
Sure.
Yeah, and it's like if you didn't fully get all of the onion,
the pieces of it,
then it's going to get thrown in your lap again, so you can really figure out what it is.
Yeah, because I was like, I don't know. It's a weird thing where it's like, and the timing of it, you know, in my personal life, I'm not dating in my personal life, but the timings of things where I was like, you know what I mean? I was like going this way, and I'm like, all right, here we go. And then it's just like, and then something just comes like a 90 degree and then just slap me in the face again. And I'm like, whoa, wait, I thought I was on the path, because I'm getting my angel numbers. I'm doing my manifestations. They're giving me little gifts, little like, you're on the right. You know what I'm talking about? Those little breadcrumbs, like you're like, you know what I mean? I tell my patients, like, because a lot of patients ask, well, how do I know I'm on the right path? I said, you'll know. Because I'm like, it'll feel like you're kind of in the boat and the water's like going that way.
Exactly.
If you're kind of going in a little bit off of direction, you're going to get a couple corrections, and it's going to be very difficult to go in that way.
Yep.
You'll try it, but there will always be something to like be a barrier, another barrier. And you could probably push through them. You got free will.
You can.
But you're going to get barrier after barrier after barrier after ailment, after illness, after pain in your whatever. It's just going to be like miserable.
Totally.
You know what I mean? Like I had a person recently who they were supposed to do a specific set of things, and they weren't doing it. And I was like, dude, you got to do this. Because I've said, just on the outside, I'm not the spiritual guru, but I'm like, there's a reason you're getting slapped in the face over and over and over again, and now you're developing this physical ailment. And then they finally did it, and then the physical ailment disappeared, and all the doors have opened up. And I said, we're waiting too long.
Yeah, well, what you just did there was explain exactly what I was just talking about, how this works.
Yeah.
It's the awareness of what they're doing to themselves in their mind.
Right.
And we're always doing this to ourselves.
Sure.
No one's doing this to us. The world's not doing it to us.
Yes. And I was just talking about
point.
that in a recent episode where I was like, it's because the last interview before yours, I interviewed a Jehovah's Witness, and that was a very intriguing conversation because they're in such a box of ideals, right? And so we were kind of and he's a patient of mine, and we had a great time. It was a very productive. I enjoyed it actually thoroughly, but it was a very interesting discussion because obviously, like what we're discussing today and what we'll dig into probably more of in a second here is very outside the scopes of what most people are comfortable even thinking of,
right?
Which is crazy to me, right? Because like I think like you and I and others, right? We end up finding each other because we're supposed to. There's a network that's getting built secretly as part of the plan, right? And not secretly, but it's like an underspoken thing that's becoming more spoken about, right? Because like Dolores is blowing up on TikTok and all this stuff all of a sudden, and I'm like, oh wow, it's happening. Like it was crazy because like last year as I discovered Dolores, and all of a sudden now she's on every conspiracy TikTok, which I'm not a big fan of how they frame her. Oh, have you not seen this?
I don't.
Dude, she's blowing up huge.
I've heard.
Oh no, she's blowing up big.
I've heard.
Like multi-million views on TikTok and stuff of people. But you know what I mean? Like I'm not a TikTok fan. I just jumped into it because I feel like I have to if I want this to get where I want it to get and like get this information out.
I understand.
Because that's one of the gifts that I have is like being able to like talk to people. I have no problem meeting new people and like trying to be personable as I can. I'm also willing to take the gunfire that's going to come at me for like half the things I say. I definitely was very outspoken in the last 2 years about everything that was going on. So I'm sure somebody will discover this someday and is going to fire me off, but that's okay.
Yeah, these aren't, your normal everyday ideas. In my world, it's normal and everyday.
Right.
I mean, for me, this is perfectly natural. I don't see it any other way. What that normalcy is to me is really odd.
Yeah.
So,
the boxes are interesting, right? I mean, it's like, because what's so interesting is when you start to understand how these things work in the whatever you want to call this. I don't know if you call it the world. I mean, I guess you could call it the world,
real
but
world.
Like, yeah, right. The Matrix. I call it the Matrix. But what's weird is I think a lot of us were starting to feel that something was off about existing here, like early on. Like even as a kid, I was like, I'm sure you're the same, where it's like you just feel like something's really off, and like everybody else is kind of just like totally cool with how bizarre this existence thing in here is. I've said that for many years. Like I just always felt weird about existing. Like you wake up and then I'm like, oh, I'm still in this like weird bed thing, in this house thing, going to the school thing, and then the work thing, and then the money thing, and the phone thing.
All of it.
And no one thinks this is weird. then I'm in the Starbucks drive-through lane. And it's all that stuff. I find it so bizarre. And then I think what Dolores has done for a lot of people is explain the bizarreness where you're like, oh, I am in a play and I am just a role. And like the way I talk to Dolores to patients is like, you know, it's like you're almost just like too deep and you forget. Like you get so deep into the role, almost like an undercover cop, and then you totally forgot what you were doing.
Well, that's kind of the point. We're supposed to forget.
Right.
So we have this thing called the veil.
Yes.
You know the veil?
Correct.
Okay. I don't need to explain the veil to your listeners.
Right. You know, the Men in Black hit that little, you ever seen that movie, right? The little, the neuralizer.
Mm-hmm.
Yes.
So a little different. I mean, well, it works that way where you kind of get wiped before you come in.
Right.
But what we have is this veil that lies in between our conscious and our subconscious mind.
Sure.
And this veil is permeable.
Sure.
So it doesn't mean that we are wiped.
Yes.
It means that the access is clouded.
Yes.
Yeah. So that information is there and we can get to it, which is what we do in QHHT.
Yes.
Yeah.
Right.
But we agree to forget when we come in because we have to play the game just like everyone else.
Right.
Like everyone that comes, whether you're a volunteer here who has already done this game before and come back to help.
Yeah.
Or you're someone who's stuck here and going through the karma and on this wheel.
Yes.
Everyone has to forget because there has to be an even playing field.
Right.
And they've tried this before where, you know, back in ancient times where the gods came in and they didn't forget. That was the difference. And that's why the humans thought they were gods, because they didn't forget their powers. They didn't forget who they were. They've changed it now so that we all
now there's
have
so
to
many
forget.
things. Now you've opened the door because now there's so many things I want to know about. Like, I'm sorry guys, I'm selfish. I came here for me. I came here because I just want an excuse to talk to somebody about this, because I read these like convoluted universe and I read all this stuff and it's just on the alien ones and there's like a million things. Yeah. Okay, so Egypt's getting hot right now. Everybody wants to know about Egypt. What's up with Egypt? What's up with the pyramids? Aliens, I want to know. Oh God, what's going on there?
That's a loaded question. I mean, how much time we got,
well,
right? So
pyramids are formed by the mind. Am I accurate there?
Yes.
So, because that's like, right, because there's so many videos these days of people starting to question, right? Because like you see so many videos now, people saying there's no freaking way we built this with normal means that we have access to now.
Correct.
So for example, pyramids, how are they built? Who built them? Because I want to know.
Okay, so this isn't Dolores canon material. All of this, because I take my information from a lot of different sources. So I just want to clarify that really quick before I start talking about this. This is not all Dolores.
Now, have you confirmed any of that stuff too with
some of my clients?
Yeah,
it's interesting. People go,
Do you
want to hear one of my pyramid sessions? Because this is really cool.
One. This is what people I think really want. They want to hear one.
All right, I'll quickly answer your first question and then I'll tell you that.
Sure.
Okay, the way the pyramids were built, they were built using thought. Yep. And also sound. So cool. Sound, thought, vibrations, all the same thing. And who built them? Well, the Ra group, just in short.
Okay.
And then they made it look like it was human built because it didn't want to be overly godly, because they understood this concept at that point that the humans were putting them on a pedestal that they didn't want to be. They were trying to show them, this is in Dolores' books, about Isis.
Okay.
The gods all they were trying to do was to show the humans, you can do this too. We're trying to teach you that you are just like us, like Jesus.
Okay.
What I can do, so can you, and better.
So these are
same
just
message,
higher
different
beings?
people. Mm-hmm.
Now, are they somewhere where we can all eventually go to? Correct. Is that the whole point, is that we're trying to get to that level?
Yes. You know, we talked about the onion earlier and the different multidimensional levels.
Right.
Yeah. So we're here on the 3rd level.
Okay.
And they're on like the 6th.
And then is there 10 levels? Am I remember that right? Is there 12, 10, 12?
It depends on who you talk to on that, because everyone has a different opinion. Yeah. In my opinion, I do an octave system.
Okay.
I like the raw material is a series of books that I've studied extensively, and I love that material and I resonate with it a lot.
Interesting.
They use an octave system that resonates to me. If you see our existence here, we have 7 colors of the rainbow, 7 musical notes.
Interesting.
So the light refracts in these 7 different colors. So
I got you.
The octave is those 7 different colors.
Sure. Okay.
So in that octave, where 7 is the top and 8 restarts, just like a piano.
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, cool. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah. And so on that level, then like our higher self would be 6th level.
Okay.
And at that level, all is unity, all is love.
Right.
There is no negativity anymore at that level, because you understand and you see the oneness.
So Jesus was like a level 6.
No.
7?
4.
4? Get out of here.
Truly,
really,
just immensely love being. So the level 4 is the level we're going to, and it's the density of love.
So we're at level 3.
Compassion, understanding. Right now we're at 3.
Now, are some people who are here lower than that? Can like someone be here and then be like level 2?
100%.
Because I think we've all met somebody and you're
2
like,
and 1.
okay,
but it's not people.
Okay.
So the second density beings who are here are our pets, our trees, our plants, our bugs, our insects, all the little fishies. That's all second density.
Okay.
The first density is the earth, the air, the fire, the water, the elements.
Gotcha.
Yeah. And we all have to do those things before we get to be human.
So we've already done that.
We've already done
We
that.
can safely assume.
Been there.
If we're all here in the little meat sack.
Yeah.
I already did levels 1, 2, most of level 3.
Yes.
Working to 4.
Yes.
So
We're all working to 4. That's why we're here right now.
So, but could someone be a higher one who came down and then
Yes.
like compacted themselves into a level?
And that's
3.
what Dolores calls volunteers. 3 waves of volunteers.
So how do you know if you're a volunteer? That's a good question.
You know, because this information, this awareness, this knowledge, this universal knowledge has been a part of you since you were born. You just know it.
Interesting.
Like you said, this world seems weird to you.
Oh, bizarre.
There's a reason.
Yeah. Moment I got here.
Or maybe you're an alien from another planet and you've never been here before. There's lots of reasons.
I feel like I'm a second waiver because it's almost too perfect the timeline of how I got very sick and then I came out of sickness naturally and then went into the healing space. And then I remember as a kid, I used to like get inklings of like knowing something about somebody. And then I kind of like just thought everybody could do that.
Right.
I can't do it. Well, I still can do it, but I do it so naturally now. It just feels like, I don't know.
And
how do you describe it?
You went into the healing field. Well, naturally.
Right.
So, people who are volunteers, so to speak, will come in as healers because that's what the earth needs right now.
It's so trippy. I can't.
It's really trippy, but it's really simple. It makes sense when you talk about it.
It does, and it doesn't at the same time, right? It's like so, you know what I mean? Because like, what I wonder is because I'm like, okay, we're given this knowledge now, and we're trying to utilize this to raise the vibration. Is the general gist of what I get is our goal, right? As the goal as part of this push. Is we're trying to raise the vibration, bring the whole earth up together to try to push it to the next level. But then my question is too, right? We're like a teeny speck, I imagine, on the grand scale of the oneness that is, right? Like in terms of the infiniteness of the universe and the levels and all of that. So my question is like, why does God and these higher beings and aliens that like help maintain this whole gig? And for some people listening right now, they're like, what are you even talking about, right? But what is the whole point then, right? Like, really, I've always thought about that, right? Like, what are we? We're just like teeny weeny on the grand scheme. Like, why are they working so hard to save this thing that keeps trying to implode itself?
Well,
in your
we're all
opinion?
one.
Right.
And the whole point of this cycle is to go back to the oneness, to go back to Creator.
Right.
But you can't go back without everybody.
Okay, that's intriguing.
You can't go back without the whole team. You need to leave no one behind. So the earth being out here so far, this little speck, so far removed from the origination, the source, central sun. Well, we've gotten so lost in this karmic wheel.
Right.
Excuse me.
Oh, you're good.
And we need help at this point because they can't go back without us because we're just pieces of them.
Right.
So your higher self on that 6th dimensional level, maybe part of the raw group, right?
Sure.
Can't go back to source until this third density portion of you gets it.
So we start dragging everybody along.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Wow.
Interesting. I mean, it makes sense that way, right? We
does.
are all one, and you have to go back as a group. Yeah.
So, boy, that's a tough one because I'm trying to think of like timelines. How long would this take to honestly drag everybody along?
It's been taking forever. I mean, billions and billions, and that's why there's so much emphasis on us right now is because we've been through this in our cycles so many times. Every time we don't get it right. Every time they have to do this cataclysmic thing because we mess it up. We mess it up every time. And so now it's like this extra effort. Come on, kids. You can do it. You can do it this time. We're sending you all this help. Literally.
Right. A little more hand holding this time around.
Well, that's all they can do too. They can't do it for us.
Okay.
Which is why the volunteers come in.
That's where I get intrigued though. Cause like who writes this laws of like the universal law, right? I've heard about this galactic council. I've heard about this thing and that thing. But then I'm like, I'm one of those guys. I want to go all the way back. I want to go all the way to the source. Mm-hmm. Why would the source create are we collectively creating the source together? But then who created the source? Or have you ever asked those questions when you put people under, like?
I can tell you what it says in the Law of One about that.
Okay.
The raw material.
Sure.
Because this is very interesting.
Like, where's the origin to all that?
Okay.
You know?
So what is the first thing in creation?
Right.
If you could imagine, what is
the chicken or the egg thing, right?
Well,
yeah.
but where did it come from? Like
sure.
what you're asking.
Yeah.
What was the very first thing?
Sure.
Think about it. It's infinity.
Okay.
Infinity is the very first thing in creation. It's all that there is infinity.
Okay.
Unity.
Sure.
Nothingness.
Yeah.
Nothing.
Right.
We all came from this dark void.
Okay.
Now.
I'm following.
Yeah. At some point, or somewhere along the line, infinity became aware. Okay. Aware that it was conscious. Aware that it is consciousness. Aware that it is.
Okay. Right.
That awareness, imagine infinity having a light bulb moment.
Okay.
Big bang.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
Yeah.
I'm going to follow you as best as I can with my complete lack of any physics or
well, and I'm going to try to get it straight too.
Not that I think
top
even
of my head.
Not that I even think the physics guys understand even an inkling probably of the massive.
Of course not, because it's not.
They're trying to logic it.
This world,
right? They're trying to make it logical.
How are you going to use third dimensional objects
knowledge
to measure something that is infinite?
Correct.
We don't have the tools. It's not happening. Like, just
it's never going to happen.
Get in your mind. Your mind has all the answers. This is how the ancients did it. I mean, how do you think the ancients knew stuff? They asked in their mind. They didn't have to study it. Yeah. Harvard didn't need to do a study on meditation for me to know that works. Thank you. Thank you, Harvard, for clarifying.
I've been saying this for years. I tell patients I'm like a researcher, but you'll never see me write a study because it doesn't matter. Anyway.
You know this because you do it, you see what happens, and then you believe it. That's how this all works.
Yeah, right.
So back to creation.
Yeah, so the oneness that all of a sudden came into the consciousness, right?
Yeah,
did the consciousness all of a sudden say, you know what, I think it would be fun if I fragmented myself to create a bunch of life, or what happened there?
Yeah, pretty much.
Because it was lonely, or what's the deal there?
It wanted to know itself. Creator wanted to know itself. So from that point of awareness, Creator said, well, who am I? And what is the limits of me? And what can I create? And so it burst out into all
fragmented
these,
itself.
Yeah, fragmented itself into all these different forms. And first you're a galaxy. And then, it spirals down, a universe, a sun, a planet. It has to go in that direction.
This is crazy. It's just, I don't know, even listening.
It all with
crazy.
thought.
Yeah.
It's all happened with thought.
Right.
So in that awareness, then the thought was had, which then created the vibration, which created the light. The light, then the photon, which creates our material world that we exist in. All we are is light. So it's densified light.
And then, so then we densify into these meat sacks. I don't know, that's what I call them, because that's what they feel like, right? And a lot of people in near-death experiences or in regression say, it's so heavy, it's so gross, I don't like it. So it is kind of like
to the light body.
Well, yeah, I would imagine.
Which is all light, which people see themselves in all the time, by the way.
Yeah.
When I ask them to describe themselves when they look down, oftentimes they say, I look just like the surroundings, or I look just like the environment, or it's just light, but it's a form, a human form looking like shape, but it's light. It's see-through.
Okay, so here's interesting, because this is making me think, because, I had the interview with the Jehovah's Witness the other day, and he and I were talking about evolution, right? And he's like, well, evolution's crap and all that stuff. So this humanoid body, whatever, that was generated and created and designed, where does this even come from, this like vessel? Like, who designed this vessel, and the why? Like, why is this the way it is? Like, who designed this? Did the oneness just come up with this, or is this like the best we could come up with? And then
I think it's iterations, right?
Right.
So you start doing one thing, you're going to say, I'm going to try this.
Right.
And we're going to see how that works.
Sure.
All right. Well, I learned from that one thing, and now I'm going to build upon that, and I'm going to do something different using what I learned from that first thing, making that second iteration.
Sure.
So if you can imagine billions and billions of iterations later, here we are.
Right. It's crazy.
And here on Earth, we've also had some help, because I think that we were more like Sasquatchy or caveman, Neanderthal.
Right.
Until those beings from the stars came and intermingled with our DNA.
And basically tried to speed up or they were just lonely and they were like, these guys look sexy. That's a bad joke, but
it's funny because they
were like,
they look good.
I'm into ape people. I'm into ape people.
Yeah,
I'm bad. I have a dirty mind sometimes, but you know what I mean? Some alien, some like I just imagine some high class alien comes down and is like, you know what? I'm lonely enough to where that's looking good today.
Hey, you never know.
You know,
you never know.
You know, because they're supposed to be the higher, more intelligent of us, right?
Sure.
You know, they're supposed to be way smarter than us.
Yeah.
So I'm like, well, why would they come down and like weird, like apey people was like their thing for the day, right? You know?
Because so have you ever read Dolores Cannon's Keepers of the Garden book?
I've probably read it, but you know, I'm sure how it is. She's got so many damn books.
So many books.
I have read so many Dolores books.
Yeah.
I don't even remember where I got something from.
Okay, so the Keepers of the Garden book is one that explains like how the earth came about.
Okay. Yep.
And what they talk about is that this earth was seeded by these star people.
Right.
That we were like this beautiful creation, and they just took care of us like a garden.
Right.
You know, when you plant your garden and you take care of it and you pull the weeds and you water it and you make sure it gets enough sunlight, you know, that's how they were treating us.
Right.
And so they've been watching us and taking care of us this whole time.
Right.
And I'm not sure where the genetics thing came in with the DNA and why they wanted to evolve us in that way, but that's what happened.
Yeah, I mean, it's hard to imagine this whole thing. I mean, I'm not denying it. I'm just saying it's like, because I'm like, you know, I mean, sometimes, you know, I wake up in the morning and I'm like, why would I have chosen to come back here another time? Because it's like,
to help.
I must have, because I am so tired. It's always the reason. So tired of it. I'm like, I must have came back literally purely for volunteerism, because I can't imagine any other reason that I would want to come back into
From the soul's perspective, it doesn't feel like this.
Sure.
Literally, we go up there, and from the soul's perspective, it's like, haha, wasn't that fun?
Right.
Look what you did there, and weren't you funny with that reaction there? And oh, let's try this again.
And it's a short bit of time in their grand scheme, right?
Very
to us,
short.
it feels so long.
Yeah.
And to them, it's like nothing.
Yeah, and there's some souls that don't feel that way, actually. There's some souls that's like, oh, don't make me do it. Don't make me go back.
Right.
But those are the ones that have to because of the karma.
They need it the most, probably, because they're missing something. They're not some lesson or something. They're just not getting it, and they've already done it like a million times. They're tired.
Yeah, and they're just like,
they keep failing.
Again.
They keep failing that class, and they're like, I have to retake it again. And
and then they come in like, I'm gonna remember, and then. Psh.
It's so crazy, man, because I went to like a 1-year-old's birthday yesterday, and I'm looking, it's so weird because once you like read this stuff, I'm like looking at this 1-year-old and I'm like, what are you thinking about me right now? Like in a higher version that you're not going to be able to express. Like, I'm like, I know you know more than what you're putting off.
They definitely see more. So especially these little ones coming in now.
Sure.
They're coming in. So each, like we were talking about this a little bit earlier.
Right.
Each generation is coming in more energetically sensitive.
Correct.
I'll call it.
Yeah, for sure.
So these little ones, my goodness, they're going to be telepathic, highly empathic.
Yeah.
You'll notice with the 1-year-olds, they will know exactly what you're thinking and feeling.
Sure.
Easy.
Yeah.
And they might even remember their past lives easier. Well, all kids do because they're closer to that.
Of course.
Yeah.
Of course.
Cycle.
It's like, you know, and I'm one of those, it's like, I kind of want to remember my past lives in some ways, and then I feel like, I don't know, somewhere in my consciousness, I feel like I'm not supposed to know, but maybe that's just me generating that.
If you're not supposed to know, they won't show you.
Right.
And that's what's so cool. Again, always protected, always guided.
Right.
If I were to put someone into a trance state to look for a past life,
right,
and it wasn't appropriate, that's not what you would get.
So do they want everybody to be exposed to this? Like, should every person always at some point get a QHHT session or a multiple? Or is it like some people you put them under and their body's like, Patrick doesn't want, you know, this isn't for him. Like,
no,
you're messing with stuff you're not supposed to mess with.
Never.
You know, hang up the phone. Okay.
No, it doesn't work that way.
Okay.
You're also, back to when you were asking about hypnosis and what that's like.
Sure.
You're also aware. You're very much aware of what's going on the entire time.
Okay.
Just as if you were in meditation. You're aware of what's going on, but you're also connected to something deeper, something higher.
Right.
So it feels very much the same. Also, that state of awareness when you wake up in the morning and that dream is really clear.
Yeah, right.
You would swear to me you're wide awake.
Right.
I'm up, I swear I'm up.
Sure.
No, you're not, because you actually got up and forgot the dream.
Is that why a lot of people forget the sessions and you have to like record them and they can play them back?
Yeah, but most people do remember. They at least remember conceptually. They won't remember exactly how they said what they said.
I got
But they will conceptually know what occurred.
Interesting.
Most people.
Gotcha.
There's a very small percentage of people who won't.
What about like, because in her book, she's always talking about somnambulistic. Oh, I said it right.
Somnambulistic.
How often are you seeing that?
Well, it's always a somnambulistic state.
Okay.
Right? So
like
somnambulistic basically means like sanam is, the som word is sleep.
Right.
And the ambulistic is moving.
Okay.
Right?
Okay.
So you're half asleep talking to me.
Sure.
So it's always a somnambulistic state.
Okay.
Because you're always in that in between.
Sure.
But what she was actually referring to is those people, like the way you're asking me.
Yeah.
Is those people who completely knock out and they have no idea what's going on.
Right.
Super rare. Those are the ones that she wrote her books with.
Of course. Yeah.
And I want people to understand that.
Yeah.
Those are the ones she wrote the books with.
Yeah.
That is a very small percentage of the people.
Correct.
So that is not everyone's experience.
No, of course
when
not.
they have a QHHT session.
How many have you ever seen a couple personally?
Yeah. Oh, absolutely.
How many would you say like in the last 10 years? Because it's like, is it on
I'll give you the last
hands?
year. Absolutely. Oh yeah.
Okay.
In the last, I would say 6 months to a year, it's only been 2 or 3 people.
I gotcha.
And I do hundreds of sessions.
Gotcha.
Right. So very few and far between. And I'll say that the ones who are knocking out tend to be older.
Okay.
Younger generations, not happening.
Now,
you come in too strong. You come in with a very strong right-left brain connection, and there's no reason for you to knock out. You're very much consciously aware and need to be in waking life. And so what this is actually teaching you is how connected you are consciously. You've come in with these younger generations.
So the younger generations, it's like almost assumed or you've like already got a lot of the connection. Is that what you're saying? Like you're already kind of connected?
Okay, so
more, or are you saying there's a barrier there, more of a barrier?
No. Okay, I'll just re-explain it.
No.
Yeah. So left brain, right brain stuff.
Sure,
this is really all this is. Our left brain is our conscious mind.
Sure.
It's how we deal with everyday life. It's the thinking, the analytical side. It's what wants to know all the details and the dates and the names and the
schedule is
that stuff.
Mathy.
That's not the side we want.
Yeah.
That's not the side.
Right.
The right side is our intuitive side, our creative side, our imaginative side.
Okay.
And that's the side that we are talking to with QHHT.
Okay,
right?
Sure.
This is the side where our higher self speaks through us.
Okay.
You know? And it's so important to be able to have this communication consciously.
I gotcha.
Throughout every day. Not in a trance state.
Got it.
That's not going to do you any good, is it? Like throughout every day, if you need an answer.
Right.
Do you need to go in a trance state?
Right.
No. Ask a question, get an answer. Your generation is coming in with the ability to do that more so than others.
I gotcha.
Because this connection isn't so veiled, isn't so fragmented.
The intuition.
It's more intermingled. It's able to communicate better.
I gotcha.
Right? So you're not going to knock out as readily. I'm not saying it's not going to happen.
Right.
I'm just saying it's rare.
Is it as needed, you think, even?
No. And the thing is, that's the thing. They don't want you to, because they want you to have the awareness of, oh, this is what my higher self sounds like consciously. When you're walking around in conscious daily life and you're driving your car and you hear this thought, don't turn that direction. Oops, stop here. Whatever that, everyone's had this driving.
Right.
Look there really quick and there's comes somebody that could hit you, you know.
Sure.
We all have these moments. That's your higher self. They want you to understand that voice every day, all day, not just when you're asleep. Because how else can we utilize it? Like this is our greatest tool.
Sure.
So this is how you learn to use that, and you need to be more aware of it to be able to use it every day.
So it's like an intuition, or you're saying
absolutely
deeper intuition?
Deeper intuition.
Okay. Yeah. I gotcha.
The younger generations come in more deeply intuitive. You're all coming in more energetically aware.
Right.
Each generation. Right.
Interesting.
Yeah. That's just what I've seen. It's
yeah.
Sure. So like Dolores talked about the waves.
Yeah. Right.
I feel like there's successive waves coming in, like another step energetically higher each time.
I gotcha.
Bringing in more and more energy when the earth is ready, when we're ready.
Sure.
Because we are.
So. The question is how much longer have you asked like some people when you put them under, like how much longer we got? Like where are we on the timeline?
To what?
To new earth, to big shift. Well, little shift that's so subtle we can't feel it. And then just all of a sudden I wake up one day and apparently everybody's like higher energy, right? So it's like I won't even know it happened. Like that's to me, it's like I'm trying to figure that out.
Yeah, no event is going to happen where it's like, immediate. And it's all of a sudden you're going to wake up to a different world. That's disturbing. to anyone's energy system. That would fray us immediately. And then
It's not like the snapping of the fingers in the Infinity
it
movie.
would ruin the whole experiment. It would ruin the whole game right there. No, it has to go super subtle.
Right.
So, okay, I'm going to go back to the law of one material. In the law of one material, it says that this transition will take anywhere between 100 and 700 years.
Okay.
And what determines that timeline is the people living here and our energies. The earth is there now without us, or without us.
Sure.
She'd rather take us with her.
Right.
That's up to, we're kind of holding her back right now is what's happening.
Sure.
Which is another reason why all the help is coming, because we're holding her back with our dense energies.
Where do the denser people go? Like, let's just, because obviously
we're all going to die, right?
Well, of course, everybody's going to.
Sometime in the next, 100 to 700 years. So it's, none of us are here now are going to be actually
on the new, or at least not likely
we'll come
on
back
the
to
new.
Be on it.
Okay.
The new, like when it's solidified completely, because it is becoming more and more solid.
Right.
So you imagine as the new earth first started to generate, it was a mist, an idea, right?
Sure.
It's just very fine. And as the years have gone by, that mist is turning into more of a cloud, right? It's solidifying more. And so we're doing that more and more. And as the people lighten up, the earth is able to lighten up more.
Interesting. So then what's the point you think of this new earth? What is the reason behind it? Because
it's the design of creation.
Okay. Because it's if you have a wonderful world with all high vibrational people who are attentive and try to do the right thing and feel guilty when they did something bad, right? If we had the whole earth like that, which obviously would be nice.
There's planets like that.
It's I'd love to keep my door open at night and not feel like someone's going to come in and murder me and steal my stuff. That'd be nice. Right? But then what do you learn then when you're in that situation, right? Because obviously when the bad stuff happens to you, you learn typically from that, right? So if everything's awesome, like the Lego movie, everything is awesome all the time, right? What do you learn in that environment?
Well, that's how we come.
Right. Or is there no reason to learn anymore in that environment because you kind of learned already? Like the people who are allowed to go there are already kind of tapped out on learning the human-y lessons.
Okay. So let's
start. See what I'm saying?
Let's start at the beginning, right?
Yeah.
So you come from source. We all come from source. We all come from that light, that creator light. We are all fractals of creator.
Sure.
Okay. Let me tell you, it's boring there.
Yeah, right.
It's boring.
Not a lot going on when you know
I've
everything.
been there in a session.
Oh, really?
Yeah. A lot of people go back to source. And it's
I want to go back to source. I haven't been back to source.
It's beautiful.
Yeah.
Imagine infinite light.
Okay, sure.
That feels so peaceful and unconditionally loving.
Right.
It's amazing. It's a beautiful feeling.
Sure.
It's extremely boring. I was so bored. I was like, can I go now? I want to go back. I want to go do something else.
Because there's just not a lot going on.
You know everything. You know that everything is love. You know.
Right. All knowledge is learned.
All of it.
Yeah.
What's there to do? It's boring. There's nothing going on.
I agree with that.
Right?
Yeah.
This is why creator one to experience. All right, but let me separate myself imaginarily.
Sure.
Right? Is that a word?
Well,
I just made it up.
Is it a word?
It is now.
What is a word anyway? Words are all bullshit anyway, right? Oh, excuse my French.
Yeah.
Poor. I don't know if I'll ever be sponsored. We'll find out, I guess, right? I'm gonna have to have some really.
It's all right every now and again.
I'm gonna have some very bendy sponsors.
That's all right. There's lots of bendy people out there nowadays.
I never started this thing to make you rich anyway.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't hurt. It wouldn't hurt. I'm just saying, if you're out there and you discover this, you see the potential. It wouldn't hurt if I could do this full time. But continue.
Yeah, wouldn't that be nice?
Yeah. I'm there.
Now I forget.
Well, no. It's boring, right? Because of the oneness and basically nothing. Yes.
So the point is, we want to experience something else.
Sure.
So you have to do it like we were talking about before in these steps. You can't just come in and be human. If you're going to agree to come to Earth School, you have to do everything.
Right.
So you have to first come in and be the earth, air, and the fire, and the water. That means you currently are earth, air, fire, and water. I think that's a really important point for people to understand.
Okay.
You are the earth. You are the trees. You are everyone around you.
Right.
Right? We're here learning that. We're here learning love, the lessons of love, how to be more compassionate and understanding of one another.
Sure.
So we go through all these different levels of understanding.
Sure. Just
to go back to that one again. And then started the whole octave all over again, another experience.
So do I have to so like the Patrick that made it to level 7 immediately goes back to level 1 again as a new fractal? So like,
when you decide to.
That's crazy. So
yeah,
like,
so you go back to the oneness.
So I decided at some point. So like, this could
right.
even be another, like the one right now, this me right now could already have been another one that made it to level 7 already. And now I'm back to level 3, 4, whatever. Yeah. And now I'm like, man.
That aspect of you exists right now.
Interesting.
All existing right now.
Interesting.
Like you have all of those aspects that are right now. Like all of us right now are creator God. That might sound a little blasphemous, but it's really not.
I'm pretty I guess I think you're pretty blasphemous guy, so it's all right.
I was raised Catholic, so you know.
I was as well. It didn't. You can see it didn't stick very well.
It didn't. Yeah.
Didn't stick very well.
It didn't get me.
The pedos didn't get me. Oh, sorry, I said something hard. Just a bad joke. Yeah. But no, I'm sorry to all my Catholics. It was a bad joke, but
yeah, but no, we are all God. We are all creators. We are all, that portion of us exists now.
Right.
Like that portion of us that is our higher self, that portion of us that is the earth, all right now.
It's, wow. Yeah, it's crazy because I think about it and I'm like, this journey you're trying to make to then get back to oneness to then be recycled. it's hard to wrap your mind around, but I guess I get it because even like in my own existence on earth, I'm like, I told them, you know, it's hard. Well, you can only tell so many people, right? Because there's a lot of people in your life probably still, right? Like your parents or other people or coworkers or whatever you want to say, right? Who aren't on that same, right? So it's like, you know, you say, gosh, I'm kind of tired of existing. They think you're automatically suicidal and depressed. But once you understand these things, you can understand why you're tired because you're like, all right, I just got to tough it out a couple, you know, till I'm like 90 or 80 or whatever my preset date was that I probably set. You know, where it's just like, but you think about it and you're like, oh my God, like going back, I could see how it would be boring if everything was perfect. I could see
completely perfect.
I could see how that would be boring because it's like,
peace.
There'd be no discoveries.
Nothing to learn.
And that's what's so funny is like learn. It makes me laugh so much because it's like learning. You're not even really learning because it's already there. You know,
right.
Like I was just talking about that the other day. I'm just like, science is just a rediscovery of what is already here. You know, like
it's just a study. That's all science is.
I could give the caveman like all the information on how to build a cell phone and the machines to build the cell phone, how to get, you know, and he'd eventually build a cell phone. He could have done it a long time ago if he just already had the inherent knowledge and intelligence. You know, and it's interesting too because as a healer as well, sometimes I wonder what is the point, like kind of like you were saying in your early journey, what is the point that I'm like taking care of this vehicle that's already bound for non-existence already anyway? Like this thing's going to expire no matter how much I make this thing limp along. You know what I mean? Like a lot of times you do end up questioning that because you do see the higher version of these people and like sometimes it's hard for me, right? Because it's like I'll see somebody who's really sick and I'm like, you're making yourself sick.
Yeah.
Like I'll see, you can tell sometimes like
always.
When someone's really
it's hard to
like,
hear for people, but if you're sick, you're making yourself sick. And I know that that's tough.
Yeah.
You're not doing it consciously.
Sure.
No one's doing it consciously, right?
Well, no, of course.
It's all subconscious. We don't even know that we're doing this to ourselves, but we're doing it to ourselves.
Well, and you can see some people are like so miserable and then like, the world's against them and that's kind of their perspective. But sometimes I don't see as many of those in the clinic anymore because I manifested, look, I can only take so many of those. Yeah. I'm a positive guy. Do, yeah. I'm a positive guy. Yeah. I'm like, give me a couple here and there. But I've
done the same thing.
Yeah. I was the crusader before I opened where I was like, give me all the hard ones with all the stuff and all the issues that only I can resolve.
And then the healer doesn't work anymore.
Correct.
Because the healer's exhausted.
You get exhausted. And I was like, okay, I changed my mind. Give me a couple. Yeah. And then I'll take give me some easy peasies and then give me some, you know, and it's worked out more that way. So, okay. So the oneness, infiniteness, got bored, was like, look, discover who I am. Fractals of self, we're all part of the same thing, which is really, for some people, it's going to be very hard for them to understand because then they're like, well, who am I then? Because am I just a shadow, a specter of this other thing?
Yeah, no. You know that's what's so cool about Source or Creator splitting off into all these different facets or aspects because it has this many different individual parts. That are all amazing and beautiful, right? And so we came here to be our individual and amazing individual selves, these magical beings that we are. Right. And yeah, that's very special. Sure. Like each and every one of us, like we're not special and very special at the same time. Like no one better, no one less than.
Sure.
But all these different experiences that is Creator. I mean, you have to fractalize in order to experience it all at once.
That's what's crazy though, because I'm like, I'm not really me. I mean, I am me, I guess, but I'm also like a whisper of some other thing.
You're the experience right now that Source wanted to have of itself.
That's what I'm saying. Like, I'm a clone. You know what I mean? It's almost like you're like a clone. You know what I mean? Like
you're
in those
a
movies.
reflection.
Yeah, like in the movies, right? Like, you know.
Reflections.
Like, right.
Reflections of light, yeah.
But then it's like a little disappointing, in a small way, I guess. But I'm speaking as the conscious mind, right? But it's like a little disappointing that I'm more just like a reflection of somebody else and not really me. You know, like I am me, but but me is really somebody else. But I'm sure if you ever put me under, I'm sure I'll be like, oh, he thinks too much. He's way too deep.
Well, that's the thing. Like, everyone is you.
Right.
This is a really good exercise. Like,
sure.
Go to the grocery store and look at every single person there and be like, me.
Right.
Me.
Different versions of yourself.
All you.
Right.
That's trippy.
Oh, yeah.
And then take it another step, and that thing that annoys you about that person or you don't quite like.
Right.
You too.
Yeah. The stuff you think is the most annoying. It's weird because then it's like, if you think about it too, when you date people, it's like you're dating yourself.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, the whole thing is bizarre.
I mean, you know obviously that is for a different
dimensional
level experience, right? Like, we're here to experience being separate, and we're never separate, but we're here to have the experience of being separate so that we can learn from it. So we have to be these individual pieces, you know, and to see what we like. What are our choices?
Sure.
Because really we're here making a choice. Are we here to serve ourselves? Or are we here to serve each other? Right?
Right.
And that's what we're here doing. We're just trying to figure that out.
The balancing.
Which path am I taking? The path
of
positivity and love, or am I taking the path of negativity and fear?
Interesting.
That's it.
Negativity and fear obviously being the big thing, because you and I were talking about too how there's a lot of powers that be that are trying to like maintain the fear and the control and the whatever. Where does that originate from? Because I was going to ask you that, like, where these people, are they beings from another planet that take a human form and they're like, I'm going to control these people? Are these people who are just really stuck in a role of the villain and they're just really like, I want money, power, control? Like, where do these beings are? Whatever you want to call them. Like,
well, all the above. And they come from creation, from source too.
Sure.
And they are just as much source as you are.
Right.
Just as much creator, you know? So we live in a dualistic universe. There has to be positive and negative. There has to be the contrast in order to see the light.
Sure.
They're an integral part of this existence, you know? Without it, again, it's all light and we don't learn anything.
Right.
So they're super necessary. It was, again, part of the design to have this darkness, this contrast, in order to help us make our own decisions, to say, I don't like that. It doesn't feel so good to me.
Right.
I'm not going to choose that path. I don't want to control and manipulate somebody else.
Right.
I don't want to lie. I don't want to cheat. It doesn't feel good.
Sure.
I just want to love, you know, I just want to,
just
want to hug and cuddle, you know, whatever. Like, you know?
Yeah.
So, but these are choices that we have to make as souls, because this is what is taking us on the steps in our journey.
Well, and like you said, they don't win ultimately, quote unquote.
No, because, okay, and here's the thing, like we were talking about the densities before.
Sure.
That negativity always falls away by 6. So no matter what path you go, the light path or the dark path, you're always going to wind up at the same place.
Okay, interesting.
Right. And so I had a session once where it was like the angels, you know, the dark angels and the light angels, and they're all like sitting at their council table like, haha, aren't you funny with that one? It's like Dolores, like, I agree to be the villain. I agree to be this.
Interesting.
It's different from that level. It's like, it's so necessary to have the contrast. Without it, we don't learn.
So there's a dark angel? I've never even heard of that.
Oh, you've watched movies before, no?
Well, they call them the devil or the evil. They call them evil spirits or I heard all kinds of things.
I mean, yeah, it has to exist.
Interesting.
Doesn't it?
Well, I agree. I think there's a point to it, you know.
But here's the thing, and this can be scary for people.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Sure.
And there's a lot of this archon and dark angel stuff going on out there.
Right.
Look, yeah, it all exists.
Sure.
But your reality is where you focus.
Sure.
So if you want to allow yourself to be afraid of that kind of thing and focus on it and be fearful of it, you're feeding them.
And they come in.
And now that they're staring at them, they know that you're staring at them. You know, you stare at someone and they'd like, oh, who's looking at me?
Right.
That's what happens. You're so focused that they're like, ooh, who's that? Ooh, somebody that's afraid? Cool.
Well,
Let me give them more attention.
Yeah.
So you get to choose which side you want to look at. So like, yeah, okay, I see you. You're cool. look at Angel. Oh, you're so pretty. I'd rather look over here because that's there too.
I've noticed that for sure. Cause it's like, for example, like in Catholicism, right? Getting rid of exorcising demons is a big thing, right? But I feel like part of the reason these demons inhabit these people or whatever is because they focus so heavily on the worry of being possessed all the time, or that everything's the devil coming after them for everything.
Yeah, it's always a free will choice when these things happen to us.
Sure.
Like we make this decision in our brain to focus, because it's how, like we just talked about, how did creation occur? It's a focused thought.
Right.
So if you're going to focus your thought on something, careful, because you're going to create it. That's how creation works. So
I step very lightly these days because sometimes I'm thinking, oh, wait, shit, I shouldn't have thought about that. Okay, and I'm trying to get rid of it. I'm like, but then does my higher version of myself know that was just like a passing thought?
Yes.
Like,
because you're not focused. It was a passing thought. You're not like spending all your energy on it. It was just like, oh, that came through just like the other thing came through. And I'm not going to give that one any energy.
Because you're like worried about this person coming back into your life or something. And then you're like, oh, crap, am I going to attract that person back in now that I had that worry about them?
Well, maybe they're thinking about you and you're just picking up the energy. Like there's a lot of different reasons.
Okay.
You think about the person, they call you.
Sure.
That's happening more and more now because of the energies are increasing so much. It's because we're becoming more psychic. We're more aware of our own intuition. Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah, but this dark stuff, it's there. It's all right. It's supposed to be there.
Yeah.
You don't need to focus on it. There's also an even greater light portion.
Sure.
Right?
Sure.
The light is so much greater than the darkness.
Sure.
Yes, it's there, but it's like this in comparison to like light.
So like in the higher levels, are these the darks and the lights, they talk to each other? Are they like on the same team? Or are they like hanging out together and they're
I mean, that session that I did,
sure.
It was like that. I don't see that in others, it's no, I don't necessarily see that. It's like they kind of on the lower levels.
Okay, sure.
They do their own thing.
Was there a session you've ever had with somebody that surprised you? Like, even though, because I like in my experience, right, as being healing people and helping people along, right, once you've done a lot of that thing, a lot stops surprising you.
Right.
But then occasionally something comes along. I'm like, oh, that was interesting. I'm actually for once surprised.
Yeah, it's always interesting.
Okay.
Oh, I can't remember the last time I was surprised.
But sometimes you get spoiled, right?
I've been doing this for 20 plus years now. And so it's like, nothing's like super surprising or unreal to me.
Right,
and that's interesting actually, because clients will come in and they think like, I was talking about before, feeling very alone.
Yeah, right.
So they think they're the only ones that have experienced this. They're the crazy one. They're the black sheep of the family.
Sure,
of course,
sure.
That's the pattern.
Right.
Man, all my hand talking. I'm Italian.
No.
So now I forget my whole point of what I was saying with my hand talking. Now I'm making him remember.
I know. I'm like, damn it. It's so much easier being the interviewer than the interviewee.
I know.
Because I get to just like.
But it was something about the clients.
The surprising. Like, there's been a moment because of like recently where you were like, oh, that's intriguing. Mm-hmm.
But no. Yeah. There's really not much that surprises me anymore.
Right.
These people, I was talking about the clients that think that they're the
Correct.
only ones that
think
experience
they're special in that aspect.
Yeah, or they think that like, I don't want to say this because it might sound so weird.
Right.
I heard it all. Please, just tell me it. Like, it's not going to sound weird to me.
Right.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. Nothing's weird to me.
Yeah.
Like, this world is so natural, and I forget sometimes when I go out into the real, the other world.
Sure.
And I start saying something, and I'm usually checked by my partner, like, stop it, What?
Yeah.
I don't, because this is all I do.
Yeah, right. So this is your day to day.
Yeah.
Yeah, sure.
I mean, my day to day is talking to higher selves.
Oh, yeah.
And I have people come in with like one conscious perspective and then leave with a different perspective from their higher self, which is always very interesting.
So do you would you say all walks of life, or is there a particular subset that typically come in more?
No, just anyone who is looking to understand themselves and their spiritual journey.
How do most people typically find this stuff, you think? Like,
they find it through maybe finding Dolores.
Okay.
A lot of people also will find me through like recommendations through friends or from their doctor.
Sure.
I've been getting a lot of that lately.
Sure. Doctors are opening up more, do you find?
Yeah, especially the naturopaths,
Like a teeny bit, yeah.
Yeah, it's taken a little while, but
yeah, cool, because unfortunately most of the professions have gone very medical now. Even naturopathy's gotten real medical, chiropractic's gotten real medical, osteopathy's dead. Osteopathy died forever ago. That's like, c'est la vie.
Yeah, that's why I don't do it anymore. I can't. It's not.
It's drugs, it's pills, and prayer.
And protocol.
And protocol. Yeah, protocol.
I mean, let's just not even. Yeah, the protocol. You know, everyone's an individual.
Yeah, I know.
Period. End of story.
It's unfortunate. Mm-hmm. It's no, it is, but there must be some reason. There's got to be some higher reason all this stuff is.
Safety.
Yeah, I think maybe, but I'm not interviewing people in a higher consciousness, so I don't get to ask the questions. I just go with my intuition, and my intuition tells me that this big medical thing and all this big disaster that's probably going to happen over the next 10 years is happening so that people wake up and say, oh my God, this is not the way.
Yep.
Like, what were we thinking?
Exactly.
Like, why were we going this way? This is not the answer.
That's why all of this is happening.
Yeah, sure.
This is why all of this has to happen, because people haven't gotten it yet.
Yeah.
Sadly enough, I hate to say it.
Right.
But because we haven't gotten it yet, all this stuff continues to happen and will continue to happen until we get it. That this isn't the way.
Right. Like, that's what I feel like is going on with the world and stuff. Like, a lot of this stuff has to happen in order for people to say, woof, I really enjoyed my freedom. And now that someone took that away, I don't like it very much. Yeah. I kind of want that back. Or medically, right? They do a procedure, it totally screws them up big time.
That's a big one.
And they're like, now they're all kinds of, or maybe a family member dies from some medical thing or something like that. And so I think that's part of that whole.
Almost everyone has that story nowadays, don't they?
All over the place.
Yeah.
Sadly. Even personally on my body, I've been screwed up multiple times. I had to learn that lesson.
Yeah.
You know, and it's like, it's an interesting system once you understand this kind of guise of things. Mm-hmm. And I guess that's why I really also wanted to come here too. Just once again, because I'm a little selfish, guys. I'm sorry. I guess I haven't gotten to I must not be level 7 yet. Unless it's really condensed, because there's some,
None of us are. None of us are. That's the thing.
But I told patients I do this because it's for me mostly in my own interests, but also there is a layer to it to help others come into it too, because I'm sick of living in the low vibration environment. I would love for us to. I was telling my patients the other day, I just want to go back to bartering. I would just love to go back to a bartering system of small communities.
Sharing things, yeah.
I want to go back to that because I'm just sick of money and
food.
Retirement garbage and stocks and bonds, and it's exhausting.
This is where we're going. Yeah. And in the last 2 years, especially with everything that's been going on in the world, people have really been waking up.
Yeah.
So I hear this over and over. In the last 2 years, I've really woken up.
Yeah.
I mean, the majority of my clients over and over again.
Yeah.
So that's what's pointing to exactly what you were just saying.
It's working.
The more they amp up, the more the light amps up.
Yeah.
There always has to be this beautiful balance. And that's so nice too, because there really is nothing to fear. They amp up, the light amps up.
Yeah.
So easy.
It's an interesting system.
Nothing for us ever to worry about.
Yeah.
Really, there's not.
It's intriguing because it's, when you kind of I was telling that funny story where I'm like, why am I beating myself up again without knowing why am I beating myself up again? It's like you can't help but laugh because in the ultimate, I know I'm taken care of, but in the moment, you can still feel the pinch of, man, this stinks.
You get caught up in the humanness.
Right. Because
because we're human.
Right.
And there's not a single one of us here that knows it all or is enlightened or evolved, because we wouldn't be here. We're all here together learning this now.
Yeah.
Together.
I've always laughed about the Enlightenment thing.
Oh man,
what does that even mean?
If you achieve enlightenment, you want to know what happens?
You go to level 5.
You die.
Oh, okay.
You die. You're done.
Right.
It's like end of that book.
Yeah, if you truly
made it to the end.
Stops. Right.
There's no point in doing it anymore. You made it. So I had a Nadi reading. What the Nadi reading is, like an astrology reading where they read this. It's really cool.
Okay. Is that kind of like I've had some readings from a Vedic astrologer. I've done that. Similar,
but it's on a palm leaf written 3,000 years ago. It's really neat.
Oh, that's interesting.
But anyway, so they told me that, sometime in my 70s, late 70s, early 80s, I'll achieve enlightenment.
Whoa, they can do that?
Oh yeah, wow. It's really cool.
Oh, dang. Okay. I'm going to do that one.
Oh, it's really cool.
Okay. So 70s, 80s enlightenment.
And then what happens?
You're just gonna die right
there.
I
die. Because what's the point?
That's hilarious. That's hilarious.
I mean, yeah.
Can you ever ask, have you ever asked, have you ever had someone client who says, hey, I want to know kind of the general, gist of when I'm going to die? Can you ask questions like that?
No one's ever asked that question.
What?
Yeah.
Oh, I would totally ask that
actually,
question.
I'm going to take that back. There are people who are older that think they're going to die sooner than they are.
Oh,
and they're told sorry, you got some years in you. Yeah, because they want to know how much life do I have left in me,
Because I feel like it's next week.
Yeah.
And it turns out to be like 5 to 10 years or something, long time.
Right. They never, and again, with timelines, they don't ever give you an actual timeline.
Okay. So
if you ever see anything online where the higher self is giving a timeline,
not a real time,
not
a real video.
I wouldn't give that credence. Yeah. The higher self's always saying like, oh, soon. I mean, it's very like, they
general.
Very
and
general.
Soon for them might be.
Because the time and.
To them is nothing.
Time is something that humans have defined.
Interesting.
And made up.
Well, I feel like the time thing kind of, I've always thought of like time as giving us a deadline, because like otherwise people don't get things done. If I didn't say you need this into me by next week, you might wait a month before you finally get like, so I feel like that's why we have to die. Maybe I'm wrong though. Maybe we should dig into that, because I'm sure maybe they tell you that, but I feel like at some point you have to have an expiration date, because otherwise you have no motivation to do something. If I'm not going to die by 80 or 70 and plan for that, I'm not going to go on that trip I've always wanted to go. I'm not going to take that risk and build that business. I'm not going to chase after that girl I've been chasing after, because I'm like, I got infinite time. What do I care?
Yeah.
If there's
Yeah. Well, we used to live a whole lot longer. You know, like in the Bible, how it said like whoever lived 630,
900 years, 800 years.
That was true.
So is the Bible legit? Or is there like parts of it legit
book,
where
right?
people messing with it? Well, because me and my patient, the Jehovah's Witness, were talking about that, where I was telling him, look, my feeling is
very messed with.
I feel like there's probably some parts in there that were truth, and then there's a lot in there that was put in there as a control mechanism by people. So
you've heard of the Council of Nicaea?
No, I haven't heard.
Yeah, like I think 606 AD or something. Maybe I'm wrong.
Okay. Council of Nicaea.
I don't know. Something with the 6.
Yep.
Council of Nicaea.
Yeah.
But they basically took all the writings, and made the Bible.
Right.
Like this is what's allowed in here. This is what's not allowed in here.
Yes, I have
the
heard
New
that.
Testament.
Okay.
Right. The Old Testament different. So we have the Old Testament, the New Testament.
Right.
So this was all New Testament stuff. So Jesus believed in reincarnation. That was taken out real swift.
And that was because I've tried to talk to some Christians about that, and they were not loving that.
Because it's not in the Bible.
Yeah, they weren't loving that.
In the Bible. I'm sure they weren't. It's all right.
Because
not in the Bible.
Because technically he talks about reincarnation, technically, but only for himself, obviously, because he's like, well, I'm kind of.
When did Jesus ever say he was better than anyone?
Oh, never.
Ever.
Of course. Right.
What I can do, you can do.
Right.
And then some, or whatever the saying, something similar.
Right.
What I can do, you can do, and better or more or something similar.
Because I always wondered like what the point of the Bible was. Because I always, like, when he and I were discussing it, I was like, look, I don't think Jesus wanted to be worshipped. I said, I don't think he wanted religion. Because I thought the whole point of Jesus was like, he was kind of going against Judaism because they had become really corrupt, and they were like really in the box of the rules and the whatever, and they weren't kind of getting the point either, which is why he came in the first place.
Jesus came to teach love.
Yeah.
He came to teach us to be compassionate and to love one another and to treat each other as you would want yourself to be treated, to love your neighbor.
Sure.
That's it. Like, why are we complicating his message?
People be complicating a lot of things.
But that's all he wanted to teach us.
Sure.
And I don't see a lot of religions actually following his teachings with what some of the things that they say.
Oh, sure.
Jesus would never exclude a leper.
Yeah.
Okay.
Right.
And let's call, anyone who's different, we're going to call a leper in this society. Right. So any church who excludes anyone, would Jesus exclude that person for any reason?
Of course.
No, he'd love that leper.
Sure.
Right. It blows my mind what humans have done to Jesus' message,
And just in general. Yeah. We're so good at it.
Well, and then there's the Nag Hammadi scriptures. Do you know those?
No, I haven't heard that.
Okay, so the Nag Hammadi, they found in Nag, I think the place was called Nag Hammadi.
Okay.
Somewhere near maybe where the Dead Sea Scrolls were, or where the Essenes lived.
Sure.
I'm really bad at like specifics
I'm
in
not
history.
very good
So
at it
again,
either.
like you were saying earlier, don't take anything I say as truth. Like grain of salt, go look it up. Like I'm not the world's expert, like go look it up. Don't take anything I say as true. I mean, I'm just remembering things off the top of my head from my own consciousness, through my own filter. So, but the Nag Hammadi scriptures are scriptures that they found in, I think, the 40s.
Interesting.
And they're gospels. They're written, like there's the book of Mary, there's the book of Thomas.
Oh, cool.
Beautiful writings in there.
Super cool.
Unmessed with.
Interesting.
Council of Nicaea didn't get those.
Interesting.
And in those, they talk about the archons, the dark angels, the light angels.
Really?
The divine Sophia. The alchemy. the divine alchemy of the masculine and the feminine. I mean, it's all in there. It's beautiful.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I don't, I can't help myself because there's just so many. It's hard to direct a podcast when it's literally you can talk about anything in the universe and its origins.
I know, sorry, and I'm like squirrel with every because
but it's all interesting.
Talk about a million
I mean, what would you say? Is there a common theme that's coming up? I mean, outside of the love and things like that.
Yeah.
Does the first, second, third wave come up a lot these days?
No, not
what
at
comes
all.
up a lot these days?
Aliens. I get a lot of alien
one?
lifetimes.
Really?
Yeah, because what's really neat about that is they want people to understand how powerful you are.
Right.
And how everything is happening through our thought and our imagination. And so what they'll do is they'll show them as a being driving a craft, a ship of some sort, and that ship is always it's conscious.
Right.
And it works in unison with the people.
Thought energy.
Yeah. And so like you think and the ship
just goes,
hears you, and that's that. I mean, yeah, there's like a glass screen a lot of times with like star constellations, buttons, but this is a mutual relationship where like the ship is like living and breathing with you, and there's this communication relationship that you have with your ship.
Are they coming soon? When's this come? Because I've noticed
been
like
here.
Well, in terms of a mass scale of like everybody's like, oh, there's Cling 2. Like Cling 2's coming and hanging out. Like, because I've noticed in the last couple of years, way more sightings are being noted. The government's kind of starting to come out and say, hey, finally, these are like, and then of course they show a picture from like 1982. And I'm like, you're telling me I got a cell phone that's 4K for $1,000. And you're telling me y'all don't have a camera that can capture these things like
this is one of those
in
things
pristine detail.
That makes people realize.
That's what I'm saying.
Because they've been studying UFOs since what?
Oh, ever.
I mean, I know at least the 40s. Yeah.
But it's so funny because
when they first came with, the first crash here.
Right. And it's like, the pictures they're showing are like this little speck in a corner of this awful looking picture, right?
Meanwhile, they have full on ships that like are exactly what I'm talking about. They have these like living, breathing ships.
Right. Yeah. In their control.
And there's people who talk about them.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Had a couple whistleblowers recently.
Yeah.
But when you're interviewing these folks who are remembering lifetimes as aliens or talking, do they talk to you as their alien self?
Sometimes.
Interesting. So what is the kind of stuff they talk about?
Well, it's funny sometimes talking to the aliens because they get so annoyed with my questions.
Because they're so smart. And
they're
just like you're asking me dumb questions.
They very much are like, oh, come on with this. Yes. Like you already know this. Like, why are you bothering me? I'm busy working over here.
I'm busy like changing the genetics of every human being on planet Earth.
Yeah. Like it's so funny. Like, yeah, but no, they're really fun to talk to. And the whole point is to just show people like how we manifest through our thought and how powerful you are.
Right.
How you can do everything with thought. Like, look at you move that ship through the universe by thinking about it.
Right.
Look what you created out there by thinking about it.
And they're the keepers of the earth. They're the grounds keepers. Is that the essential?
There's lots of groups out there who are like paying attention and helping us. Yeah.
And some of us are or were aliens.
Are
as in terms of the oneness, yes.
Yeah,
but
all
like,
happening now.
But like a memory I could pull out, like if I got it under.
Do you want to hear a personal story?
Yeah, let's get a good one.
Do you guys want to hear my alien ship?
I think everybody wants to hear anything about aliens. If you
aliens
if people listen to my shit, there's
all right, cool.
they got to be interested.
And I'm also remembering that we didn't talk about that pyramid session that I said I
do want to know about the pyramid session.
If anyone was wondering, I remember it.
Good. See, because you got it. See, because I just keep going. I'm like, all right, give me another one.
All right, let me tell you about the pyramid, and then I won't forget about my own ship.
Pyramid, alien ship.
So I had this woman. She was so great. She went into a life where she saw like herself as this Egyptian young boy, and in the traditional ancient garb.
Sure.
And all she was doing was staring at this pyramid. And all I can see is this pyramid, and I just want to go there so badly. And it turns out that her soul like left the boy's body and then went and became one with the pyramid.
Whoa.
So she was experiencing herself as the pyramid.
That's weird. Interesting.
I know. Really cool. But so her feeling that she felt so at home. She felt so much. I'm finally home. I finally feel like myself. Like I'm finally in the space where I feel like, oh, this is me. Right.
Yeah.
I know. It was really cool. But her job was to be this energy transducer. And that's it. She was an energy communicator, and energy would come in, go out. It's just this communication device,
Interesting.
an energy transducing device.
That's what the pyramid was?
Yeah.
It's like some energy.
Oh, it's definitely, for energy.
So who came in and ruined all that? Like, where did all that knowledge go? What happened? Like, why is it all gone?
Well,
or is it gone and then
right, the energies have shifted. So everything was aligned back then.
Right.
Right. And specifically, this comes through in sessions a lot, where when these sites were being built, like I had one building a temple around the Sphinx the other day.
Right, sure.
And it was very important, the alignment to the stars.
Right.
So we've shifted a bit.
Sure.
And so they're not fully aligned, which means that they don't fully work the way they did back then. Like if the wiring isn't quite there and connected right, it's not, the power's not going to go through.
Okay. So what about the knowledge of building all that? Why did we lose all that? Like, why did we lose the knowledge of building these things?
Because it wasn't the humans that did it. It wasn't our knowledge to begin with.
Okay.
We weren't ready.
Sure.
See, what has happened in the past, let's take Atlantis.
Yeah,
Okay?
right.
So we had some of that knowledge. We
Sure.
knew how to work with the crystal energy. We knew how to harness it and do these things. But as humans do, we get greedy and want to take control and be powerful, and then it goes awry.
Sure.
And we destroy the earth and cataclysms happen.
Right,
over and over again, humans. Knock it off. Like, right? You know, so this is what's been happening.
Right,
and so they didn't allow us to like get so powerful so quickly because we didn't have the awareness. It's like giving a kindergartner like a gasoline and a match. Like, would you?
Sure.
They learn not to do that. Right?
Okay.
So now that it's just been like very gradual, very, very subtle with what they're teaching us and how we can work with our energies and things like that, because they don't want us to destroy ourselves again, because we obviously
that's what I'm wondering. Because I'm like, what happened to the builders? Like the builders who helped build the pyramid.
Yeah.
Like, why didn't they pass that knowledge down? Like all of a sudden, or did someone snap their fingers? It was like, y'all gonna forget it, you know? Because did they fly down? They're like hovering in, like
they did pass it down. It's just they're passing it down through our minds, and we think we're making it up. Like, or you know, like the inventors, the physicists, like they get ideas. Where do you think those ideas are coming from?
Right. They think it's like some great idea they came up with, but it's really not what they came up. Yeah.
This is why people invent things at the same time, because it's given. It's given to the collective, and whoever grabs it.
Right, gets it.
Yeah.
That's why you might see somebody with a totally they might be totally away from that discovery, but yet they come, like Joe Schmo down the street might invent a car that runs on water.
Totally.
And he's just like a hobbyist in his garage, and he's the one that does it.
Because he got quiet and heard it.
That's it.
He was he was vacuuming one day and was like, oh.
So the pyramids were energy transmuters, transhooters. I don't know. I don't know the words.
Transmitters.
Okay, transmitters of just like Earth energy.
Transducers too, I would say. Yeah.
You know,
because they're on a very specific place, and they're aligned
to do.
Also.
Well, what were they doing? They were just
that's
like
all for the energy, all for the communication.
Oh, just between.
So everything that happens here is recorded.
Okay, sure.
And then sent out.
Oh, okay.
So that all that information can be picked up. So the pyramid is just one, the Egyptian pyramid is one of those places on Earth. There's multiple places on Earth that are collecting information.
Sure.
And then.
Same thing with like those obelisk spires, the spires. Is that a similar thing?
That the energy. Yeah, that's about energy.
Because then I get conspiratorial because I'm like, well, why does Washington have a giant spire in
with
there?
2 red eyes on top of it?
Yeah, like what's up with that? I get a little.
I don't like that one either.
I'm like, somebody knows something. I'm like, this has nothing to do with our president's.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So
I don't know if that one has anything to do with communication of information, but definitely energy
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It has to be some type of energy
something
thing.
like that. Mm-hmm.
So okay, so you had that one, and then you said there was going to be the second story.
Yes, about my own ship.
Yeah, the ship. Tell me about the ship.
All right. So in my own session, because I've had a couple QHHT sessions, this was my second session.
Long time ago?
Yeah, probably at this point.
Like, do you still go under from time to time?
Oh, I go under all the time. But now it's really easy.
I got
I've trained myself, and now I also train others.
Oh, so you can do it to yourself?
Yes, I can do it to myself. And then also it's easy for someone else to put me out really quickly now, because I allow it.
You've just done it a lot.
I've done it a lot, and I've learned how to channel, and I've been meditating for 20 plus years.
I got you.
I've learned how to listen.
Sure.
Learned how to trust. That's it.
I got you.
That's it. Everyone has this.
Yeah.
You have to learn how to trust it.
Yeah, right.
So I've learned to trust it.
I got you. Not think you're crazy.
Yeah. Okay, so this session that I had, I saw myself driving a ship, like similar to the ones I was explaining earlier.
Yeah.
This ship kind of looked like a big dome.
Yeah.
That looked kind of like crystally, or like a white crystalline, like stone on the outside. Inside bare with just this glass pad in the middle where I'd put in the star constellations. And when I did that, the ship opens up in front of me, and then where I could see it becomes transparent. Yeah.
Okay.
And then you go wherever you want to go in space. Well, this ship, what I was doing was actually carrying these crystals that contained energy and information to this report station in space. So like we have the Akashic records here.
Right.
It's more of like the records for the universe.
Okay.
Right. And if you ever watched, what show is it? SG-1?
SG-1.
It's
Stargate
SG-1?
Stargate SG-1 with the...
Yeah, when they hang out with Thor and those beings, they're the... I forget what... Anyway, they're the gray ones. It's Thor and whoever.
Okay, sure.
But Thor uses these exact things that I saw in my session. No joke.
Very interesting.
And I've never seen the show before. Like I started watching this stuff after.
Yeah.
But you would have never seen me watch a Star Trek, a Star Wars, any of this prior to seeing. Because when I was doing the session, I was thinking, what is this?
Right.
What is this? This looks like Star Trek. Why am I seeing this? This is so stupid. Right. But I'm going to tell you anyway. I'm seeing this stupid ship in the literally there's this report station in the middle of the universe that I went to ultimately, and
to hand off information.
And other people have seen the same exact, if you've seen this, I don't know, we'll see who sees this, you never know, but there's a little yellow light being in the control center of that report station. So interesting. Yeah. So anyway, that ship that I drive came to visit me prior to the session. We saw a UFO before I went in.
Yeah, right.
And now that I know that I'm driving a ship on a different dimensional level, I call myself. I can call myself, I can call my ship, and it will come.
What?
I've done it.
You can see it in the sky?
Yeah.
Get out of here.
I only do it for myself. Like I've called myself when I'm like questioning reality, like having a hard one.
Am I crazy?
Yeah, like come on, I need help. I need something right now. Like it's like almost a moment of desperation. Like that, it has to be so energetically strong. Like where I like need it for my own involvement. You know.
Sure.
And every time.
And it shows up.
There I am.
Really?
It's really cool because it's all happening now.
And you can see it, like a ship. You can see the ship.
Yeah.
Really? How big does it get? How close is it getting? Like, is it like a little speck in the sky?
Speck.
I got you. That's what I figured. Yeah,
it's a star, but you tell by the movement and the way it shows up for you. And then it's like you. Okay, so the very first actual ship I saw before this, because I've seen an actual UFO in real life.
Cool.
Here in Arizona, when I was in medical school. Okay. Like early 2000s.
Yep.
And this ship came really, really close. And before it did that, it was just a star in the sky.
Okay.
But the star in the sky was really weird to me. And I was like, what are you? Are you watching me? Like I kept talking to it because I could feel I'm telepathic and empathic. Like I pick up a lot. And so I was like, what is happening? And the minute I do that, it comes towards me because it's like, oh, we're communicating now.
Interesting.
And then it came and went right by my apartment at the time, and then it was out. Yeah. So.
All right, I'm ready. Where's my ships? I'm ready for some ships.
Well, that was a really big moment for my life, you know, because then you see that, and then you're like, well,
reality shift.
Holy cow, right?
Yeah, reality shift.
100%. Like it was right there, a ship, an alien ship. Like what?
Yeah, it's interesting.
I know. Yeah, it's really cool though.
Yeah, because I think about it and I try not to get jealous of these things because I do get jealous. I can't help it. I'm a Virgo.
I'm a Virgo.
Funny. I get jealous.
My partner is the same way. Yeah. Like, why can't I see a ship? He finally saw one. It's only when you're ready or if you need it. It's not a party favor.
Well, that's what I think it is. Is like I feel like they know I don't need it, but I want it. But they're like, but you don't need it because I don't.
We got other things to do than to appease your,
That's ego, I know. Sorry. The ego's there. The ego is when the ego's there. I'm like, I want to see it, And then like I had a psychic lady tell me one time because I said, hey, I want to remember past lives or I want to do this, and then she was like, she was so matter of fact. She was like, you're not gonna remember. I was like, what? Come on now. Because I'm getting all obsessed. I'm reading Dolores things. I'm reading past life regressions. I'm like, what's the guy's name? The other past life. Brian Weiss. Yeah. I'm reading Brian Weiss books. I'm reading The Place Between Here and There. I'm reading all that stuff. And I'm like, I am ready to, no matter what I remember, I'm stoked for it. Mm-hmm. And then she's like, no, it's not going to happen. Yeah. I was like, what? And she's like, no, my guys are telling me that your guys are telling them just ain't going to happen for you because you don't need it anymore. You like... Because she was basically saying like developed enough where none of that matters anymore.
Yeah.
And like, you're just here to do some things. And this is like the end for you. Like, you're already like done. Like,
That
this
makes
is
sense.
the karma cycle is pretty much done for me. And it's like kind of bummed out because in the conscious mind, to me, it's all new.
Right.
In my conscious mind, this is all new. In the higher self, it's like, dude, we know this. Like, we came with the plan.
Right.
You're the me.
Yeah.
That's just gonna like volunteer and just like spread information to
Came to do a
people
job.
and like just yada yada, and then you're gonna die and wake up me again.
Yeah.
And then, but then the conscious me is like, but I want to remember. I want to like see the ships, and I want to like, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
I don't want to get abducted. So any alien that's listening, I don't want to be abducted. I thought about it. I thought about it. Like, would I be okay with like waking up in the middle of the night and I'm like floating like this in the sky, and I wake up and
Probably
I'm
not.
like floating out a window? I feel like that would freak me out.
Yeah.
So I'm putting that out there.
Yeah.
If you're gonna come to me, come to me like,
doesn't happen.
yeah, I'm saying come in the daylight. Okay, like if I'm gonna have a direct alien experience, it needs to be in the daylight with a slow approach.
Right. And now that you have this
Slow
list of
approach.
things that they need to
I
check
know,
off
they're not
before they
gonna
come
do
and
it.
visit, they're
It's too
like,
hard.
sorry,
It's
I'm
not worth
busy
it.
with other things.
Yeah, they're like, I'm busy upgrading your DNA. You,
Yeah, you
you
know,
selfish.
it's
you
so
know.
funny. Like, yeah, it's only like they're helping just as much as we're here helping.
Right.
You know, and so if we don't need the help, then they're just gonna move on.
They're like, dude, I got a 9 to 5. I said, they're like, I already do this Monday through Friday. It's a Saturday. Why are you contacting me for this? I'm not doing this today. You know, I'm sure they feel the same way. They're like, come on now. I do this 7 days a week. I literally absorb energy into my body as food. I don't got time for this right now.
Actually, it's funny. You would think that they would think that way,
Right.
but they don't. It's like they have all the time in the world because time is no thing.
Right,
like,
right,
there's no
right.
such thing as time.
Well, there's no weekend for them, right?
Yeah. And,
Yeah.
you know, like, okay, let's just talk about like our dead relatives or spirits. Like they can
Sure.
be in multiple different places at multiple different times. And let's talk about Dolores. Dolores passed on so she could help all of her practitioners all at once. She could be in
Interesting.
every place because when you're a spirit, you can do that.
Has she come in anybody's session? Has like anybody had a session and like Dolores is here? She wants to say something to you. Really? That's interesting.
It happens.
What
Yeah.
level's Dolores? Did she cut? Like, did she come back? She's like, I'm like a level 5.
That's so funny. Well,
Did she ever come back?
she's the Grand Poobah. So
Well, she is the Poobah, but does the Poobah have to be a high level? Could the
she
Poobah be
is
it?
the level. Like she's the master, and then we're all trying to be just like her. Like that's it. That's
The
all we're
Grand
doing. We're like,
Poobah.
can we be more
I
like
like
you,
that.
Dolores?
Right,
Let's try.
right.
Please
She's
teach
float-
us. Teach
She's
us
floating
like
above the rest of us. No,
Well,
I'm
that's
just
it. That's
joking.
all. Like really, as a practitioner, it's
Sure.
like, how can I do this exactly like Dolores? What would Dolores do? So many of us ask ourselves,
Sure.
what would Dolores say?
I think a lot of us do
you
that in
know?
the healthcare field because like when
Yeah.
you learn you learn these things.
Yep.
Like back in my chiropractic career, of course, you have the greats, and everybody imagines what the greats would be
Right.
doing and saying and
What
trying
would
to
Jesus
emulate.
do?
Right. Well,
Since
I've been saying that for
since we went there.
years. I've been saying that for years. No, a lot of down likes on this one from my Christians. No, I mean,
Hey,
but-
listen, I love Jesus and his teaching. Like, you know what I mean?
I've said the
Like,
same
yeah.
thing. I've said
No.
the same thing. I've said it many times. I even said in the recent interview, like I totally admire Jesus and everything that he did for the
Thank
earth.
God he
And
came.
you know what I mean? Like I
You
think he
know?
did a lot of incredible things. It's
Yeah.
just like, but I've always seen his perspective differently. Maybe
Yeah.
I'm personifying him even more. I mean, obviously he was a person, right? But maybe I'm just
It's
saying,
what
you know,
humans have done. It's the
Right.
program. It's the box. It's the.
we
that's
want
all.
to, we want to,
That's all. Not the message.
we want to deify every
Yeah.
incredible person that's been here to the point where they're not like, we
Right.
make them unattainable.
Just like we did with Ra and Isis
Yeah,
and all
right,
of the
right,
Egyptian
right.
gods, we did the
Sure.
same thing with Jesus.
Yeah.
And if he were to walk back in right now, he would say, "Stop it!
Yeah. Stop
Please,
worshiping me.
Please don't do this. Stand up and stand
Right,
with
right.
me.
Just be
Look
be
at me
better.
here. You know,
Yeah.
we are here."
That's and I've tried that. I think it's an interesting time because a lot of constraints are breaking, ideologies are opening. You know, like strict rules are starting to bend.
Yeah.
You know, like, and the older generations are trying to hold on to these things, and the junior generations are like, I just don't feel that deep in my heart.
Yeah.
You know, like when Jehovah's Witness and I were having, you know, my patient Dan and I were having that discussion the other day, right? We were talking about like babies going to hell, and him and I both agreed, like, that makes no sense.
It makes no
Like,
sense.
way no
Well,
sense at all, right?
guess what? I need to tell you how
Or
it
hell
really
in
doesn't make sense.
or hell in general, right? Never made sense to me, but
Hell doesn't exist.
yeah. And
Sorry,
that we had a discussion about that. No, we did. We had a deep discussion because like that's the one I was most interested in because I have just felt deep in my soul, like that intuition you're talking about hell never made sense to me because I think who's the worst person on earth, right? I'm like picking out who's the worst person, right? And everybody has their person they pick. They pick Hitler, they pick this guy, they pick that guy, right? But in the end, I'm like, what would be the point of infinitely torturing this person till the end of infinite time?
For a mistake.
Because at some point,
blip of a lifetime.
At some point, they would learn the lesson of I shouldn't do that in some level of that torture. So like for me, it was like at minimum, if hell existed, it would be for a short stint of time because that type of torture would not take long for a lesson to be learned. But I don't even think it would learn a lesson from that because like,
the only hell that we can create is in our own minds. That movie, What Dreams May Come, is a really good representation of this.
What dreams? Okay, I'll have to look that one up.
It's with Robin Williams. It's years ago.
Sure.
But him and his wife both died separately and just through tragic circumstances.
Oh, sure.
And she created a hell for herself. And he did not.
See, that's what's
interesting. And he had to pull her out of the hell, but she all created in her mind.
See, that's a big one because a lot of people say because of near-death experiences as proof or because of this Bible scripture as proof or whatever, they say, well, hell existed. Or you have near-death experience people who are like, well, I died and I went to hell. And they give their YouTube video of saying their explanation, right? It's a common thing now, right? It's like,
really?
I died. Oh, yeah. You can go look them up. There's people who said, well, I died.
Went to hell, huh?
Yeah, they have near-death experiences and they say they went to hell.
What was that like for them?
I listened to one. It was really... honestly very disturbing what he said because he said he was a college professor who was like atheist and he was not a good guy, to people and was very arrogant and whatever, died, had a heart thing. He said he woke up in a hospital room and what he figured out was after a while, because his wife wasn't saying anything to him, she was like looking at him and stuff and she wasn't saying anything, or like she couldn't hear him, like he was talking to her and he realized after a while like she's not listening to me or something. But he said he didn't quite put it together. He walked in the hallway and a doctor, like people were like waiting in the hallway and they were saying, hey, you got to come with us now. And then he said, okay, I'm like, am I going into surgery? Because they realized he had like a blown appendix or a gallbladder or something blew. And, but he hadn't realized he had just popped out of his body and that these beings were coming for him that weren't of the world or whatever. So they took him and they said he woke up in some crazy hellscape and like all these people were like doing terrible things to each other and killing each other over and over again and like all these awful things. And then he said that he got raped by like 10,000 people in this hellscape.
What a thing to create.
Yeah.
For
and
yourself.
then he was like, he said he had to look up to the sky and ask for God's, help and Jesus's help. Beautiful. And then Jesus came, pulled him out of it and whatever. So he said, well, hell, it does exist. I had confirmation. I went there, came out.
You can create it if you'd like.
Right.
Well, it does. Anything exists if you want to create it, but it doesn't actually, like there is no place to go to called hell.
Right.
The only thing that you're doing is creating that in your brain.
Self-generating it.
Yes, just like demons and like attachments, things like that. That's no. That's you. That's you all day. That's your own inner demons that you are personifying, that you are making into
creating
a picture,
something.
like animating it.
Got it.
Right. No, those are your inner demons. So that guy, you said he was living not so amazing.
He needed a wake up call.
He needed a huge wake up call. Well, that was a beautiful one. Thank you, higher self, for putting me in hell.
Instantly changed him
so that I can see. Yeah. I don't want to live like that. It's like the Scrooge movie all over again. Awesome.
Right.
Like our higher self has a really beautiful way of showing us these things to give us our answers, and that's what he needed. Yeah. He needed that 2x4.
Well, for sure. Yeah. That's what I thought when I heard it. I was like...
I guide people through a death scene every session.
Oh, sure.
They go through the death scene. And so it's not just a near-death. I mean, it's similar to a near-death experience. They're not actually dying, but they're actually walking through and seeing the exact same thing that they would when they died. They feel the things that are happening too when they die.
You can feel it? Oh,
yeah, sometimes they do, but they don't have to physically feel it, but mentally and emotionally they feel everything. Yeah. And it's beautiful. It's really beautiful. I mean, I my own deaths that I've had in my past lives, it's like, time to go, see ya. Like it hasn't been a thing.
Interesting.
It's just easy. It's easy. And you just go and you go to the light. It's always light. Right. Sometimes people go to the library. Sometimes they're met by guides. That's right. Educated.
Yes. Educated baby.
Education here.
Doctorate degrees.
They're meted by the people. Yeah. So they're met by their guides.
That's so funny.
They'll go to the library. They'll go to something called the healing place.
I've heard of that. Yeah.
Which you brought up Hitler before. Hitler's still there.
Yeah, he's still in the healing place.
He has a lot of healing.
He's cooking in there.
Because here's what happens. You also do a review of your life where you would look back on everything you've ever done to everyone.
You feel
exactly.
So Hitler's feeling like hundreds of thousands of killed deaths.
Imagine that.
Woof. He needs a healing place
for a long time.
Oh my goodness.
Right.
Wow.
Yeah.
But was he supposed to do that? Like, are those some of those things predestined to happen? Like, was he supposed to do that?
There's always some, like, so what you're saying, yes, there's a little bit of truth to that, but then like we come in with a plan, but then as we know, as humans here, we screw it up.
Right.
So, yes, he had a role, but he took it too far.
Like maybe he was supposed to do something bad, but then he like went really
I'm not
bad
exactly sure what the story is, but I know that there was some sort of plan for him to be a villain.
Interesting.
But he went overboard, like Rasputin, and like you just get too distorted.
I get so intrigued by that stuff too. I mean, it's all very interesting to me because I've been questioning my own self recently too, not in a bad way, but I've been like health problems wise, right? I still have lingering health concerns even now after everything I've possibly done to eliminate them.
Physically or?
Oh yeah, physically.
Or mentally and emotionally.
Well, mentally, emotionally, I've been trying to dig in over many years now and trying to heal like as best as I can of the traumas that I remember. And it's worked very well to a point, but there's still like a couple of big things. Like I was talking the other day about, I was telling my patients, I'm like, there has to be some unresolved mental thing somewhere deep in the soul for myself. Cause I'm like, for example, like still gluten intolerant after a decade. I'm still like having heart palpitations after like a decade of trying to figure out why is it happening and doing all the different things and whatever. And I meditate an hour typically a day, and I do all these things, and still I have those. I ask for healing from my guides. I say, hey, I'm open. Let me have some. Yep. And still, even after all that, I still get these things.
Well, because that's not going to do it. We think that's going to do it.
Sure.
I'm meditating. I'm asking for the healing.
Right. I'm manifesting it like
people also think too that they can just come in and ask their higher self during a QHHT. Right. Just ask them and they'll heal it.
Right.
No.
Because I'm doing like the Joe Dispenza, right? I'm like imagining the healing happening and this and that.
There's a part to that with your thought creating your reality. Sure. Absolutely. But if you're not fully believing it, it's not going to work.
Right.
That's the thing. Like you're not fully believing it. Right. So it's not, belief is everything. Sure, you have to like 100% believe it. And this is where QHHT is great because you're going to actually believe it because you're telling yourself from this perspective of really getting it, like seeing it so clearly. Yeah. Is
it like a flip? Is it like a switch you flip, or does it like if I did a session and then something healed, could it come back again?
It can absolutely come back again.
Oh, that's such a bummer.
Because humans will doubt it.
Yeah, I guess.
And not believe. Like, oh, how could that possibly be? I've been taught this different story in this different program my whole life.
Yeah.
And it's got to be physical, and I need medication. And there's this chemical imbalance and all this stuff and blah, blah. No.
Agreed.
Right?
Agreed.
No, so it's the belief, 100% belief. I just had a client the other day. She said, is it normal that, the higher self will say it's healed and then I'm actually worse?
Oh, interesting.
And I'm like, absolutely. You want to know why you're worse? Because and you're still ignoring it. So it's worse.
Interesting.
Once you know, you have the personal responsibility to step up. Right. And you're not stepping up. You're not believing it. You're not getting it. Well, now it's going to be harder because I told you. And now, if you know and you're still not, it's like, psh, psh.
Right. Turn up the heat. Yeah. Well, that's what happened with that case I was telling you about with the guy with the physical map. And I told him, and his symptoms kept getting worse. The more he got close to me telling him, I was like, dude, I'm not a genius. I'm just telling you what your body's telling me to tell you. And I'm like, and then eventually, anyway, it's like it resolved. So yeah, I'm curious now because I've said that's why I think I pursued the QHHT stuff so far, even now and down to interview, because I just want to know a little bit more before I went all the way jumping in.
It's truly about getting the understanding for yourself.
Sure.
This is what you get out of a session. A session isn't about going into a hypnotic state to do a past life and having your higher self come in with the magic wand and heal you.
Right.
That never happens.
Sure.
Yes, people walk out of sessions instantaneously healed.
Sure.
But it's not because they didn't
They understand the origin. It's because they understood the origins to it.
They have to get the understanding. This isn't just a magic trick that the higher self does for you. Because think about it. What kind of parent would do everything for the child growing up? Never teach you to tie your shoes, wipe your own butt. like all of this.
Right.
Think of the higher self like that. You have to stumble around through life, make your own mistakes so you can learn. Because if they're always there, tying your shoes, wiping up after you,
Right.
what are you going to learn? You're never going to learn to do it.
Right.
So they cannot do it for you. That's no help. That's the worst parent in the world.
Yep.
They're not going to be that. So they can't just, they're trying to give your body a message. You're not getting it. Oh, yeah, we'll just take that away because it's bothering you.
Right.
This is what people want.
Sure.
I'm asking. Okay, good for you.
Yeah.
You need to get the message and then we'll help you. We want to see you do work and then we'll help you. We'll match that work. It's like your dad. You know, I want to buy a car, Dad. Okay, you save money and I'll match it.
Right.
They did the same thing.
Well, unfortunately, I just got the notification. I'm out of memory on this one.
We've been talking that long.
This one's about to hit memory, so luckily we still have some. So unfortunately, I got to pause it here. Maybe a part 2 at some point soon.
Yeah, there's always
because
so much to talk
there's
about.
too much to talk about. So just want to thank you for letting me come down here into your space, your dojo.
Thank you for
and
having
letting
me.
me interview you, because I think my patients will definitely find it fascinating. I hope no one takes some of my off-color jokes aside. Christians, I'm sorry.
All right.
I had an off-color joke or two. Don't take insult to it, because there's a lot of good things. But so that's another episode of the Unruly Doctor podcast, guys. So apparently we've got to get reviews. So I guess I got to have to ask for, if you're listening to us on Apple, leave me a 5-star review about your interest in the podcast. But if you're on my YouTube page or the TikTok page or everything where I'm going to chop and throw this, like, subscribe to it, share it with somebody, give me a comment on there. Even if it's a bad comment, it still bumps me in the algorithm.
Totally. And you guys, by doing that, you're going to help people find this show. And if this information was valuable to you, then it's going to be valuable to someone else. And it's important that we all share this information.
Everybody's got to come together.
It's necessary.
All right, guys. Thank you.
Thank you.